Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the WaffleBran Podcast. We are back again for another week. We're keeping it up.
Hi, guys.
We're keeping our consistency, hopefully up, we're back for another week and on time-ish. We're not as late as I think we. No, we're pretty late. No, we're pretty late. I'm looking at the clock.
We're pretty late.
We're pretty
Blame
late from
Waffle.
our stuff.
It's always
Blame
Waffle's
me.
It's always Waffle.
Yeah.
Well, we're back.
It's my fault.
We have Waffles here as normal, and then we have our special guest Aria here as well, joining us today for the podcast. Do you want to do a quick introduction, Aria?
Sure. Hello. I am Aria, or also known as the Witch, as Aria Oakbell. I'm that crazy English bitch. Generally, I stream now and then. I am a writer. I sing. I have a lot of things that I mean to do that I haven't done yet. Yes, Aria the super mod. That's the other thing. I mod for pretty much everyone. That's about it.
Yeah.
Really.
All I expect out of
especially
today,
my channel.
All I expect today is Aria to be yelling at Waffles half the time. That's like all that I expect out today. That's the only thing that the expectations are just
probably
up there. And
Aria,
the only thing we can predict is that Aria is just going to start yelling at Waffles for some reason that Waffles creates. Because I already do it, and I'm not even his mod.
Yeah. Pretty much Aria carries my channel.
Mod life is. I already had to. Already, you misspelt in your title, so I had to fix it for you.
Did I? Did you already fix? Did you fix a typo
already
in this
fixed it.
He's already messed up. See, this is the reason why Waffles doesn't do his own streams, especially for the podcast now. And he said if someone else could stream for Waffles and have it all performed, he absolutely would, because this man right here is not capable at times of doing that.
Hi, it's me, funny man on internet. Ha ha ha.
You want to do a flex, Waffles?
Oh yeah, flexing funny man. This is what I do. This is what I do on the internet for entertainment. I look at complete strangers, and I don't work out or anything like that. But for some reason, I have a redeem on my Twitch channel. That means I have to flex when they make me do it. So I get to show off my noodle arms to the whole world. Yeah.
There we go. Yeah. Well, Aria is from the UK, and that is very important for today's subject, because we're going to be talking about some American and UK, I guess more specifically, differences. To give context, though, the funny thing here is he's American. She's from the UK.
Yep.
I'm from Canada.
Yep.
So we're saying American.
We're the middle ground.
We're saying American, which is kind of funny because there are some differences between there are a lot of differences between the US and the UK. And then you take Canada, and part of those are American and part of those are UK. So I have I am the in between in terms of there's some of the things that apply to Americans that will apply to Canadians, and then there's some of the things that apply to people from the UK that apply to Canadians, which is quite funny and entertaining to see. But we're gonna be going on that today. We'll see where that takes us. We'll see all the British slang possibly that comes out of Aria as well. I'm sure that will come out.
Yeah,
as
we want you to go maximum British for us, Aria. We
maximum
want you
British.
Maximum.
Do my
pull
best.
Out your ultimate poshness.
Well, see, that's the question, because there is the poshness, but then where I was born and where I was raised is, I suppose, the closest thing would be we are the Hicks of England. This is farming land. We're in the southwest. It's where Leo and I born and raised. If I spoke from where I came down here, I'd sound like this. And I can't read. And I can't write, but I can damn well drive a tractor. So that's the locals. But then
make sure never pronounce your T's. If I hear you pronounce one T.
Yes, no T's. Always drop your H's as well.
Yes,
you
drop
wear
the
your
H's, drop the
trousers.
T's.
Got your brown trousers, and you got to put your hat on a peg.
Your hat on a peg.
Got to put your hat on a peg. But then you've also got. So my mum is a Londoner, technically. So sometimes Leo says if I get really ragey, I tend to go Cockney. So then
Oh man.
you've got you've got your apples and pears. All right, love. All right, love. Got the apples
All
and
right, Ev.
pears.
You get
Had a
straight out of
nasty fall
Oliver
down them
Twist.
apples and pears they did. Caw. Damn Yanks. Damn Yanks. And of course, I sound nothing like
love
any of
cocky.
that because my English teachers and my drama teachers, when I was at school, because I always wanted to be an actor or a teacher or something like that, taught me to speak without an accent. Because back in the day, the BBC wouldn't hire anyone with a regional accent. It was like a whole
Oh,
big
really?
thing. Yeah, it's only been in the last.
I'm sure that most people know what that is, but for context, can you tell us what the BBC is?
So, for context, the BBC is the British Broadcasting Corporation. That is free TV, essentially, in the UK. It's all very British stuff. They're the people who put on stuff like Doctor Who. Everything that is super British. It's paid for by public funds. You have to have a television license, and that pays for everything they do. But they also
Super British
run
channel.
like all of the news and stuff. So it used to be up until sort of 15, 20 years ago that if you wanted to be on TV with the BBC or with ITV, which was a similar sort of company, you couldn't have a regional accent. You had to be understood no matter where people were seeing you.
Wow.
So that's why I sound like I do.
Wow,
It's
that's
the
interesting
British
that they
Baking
would
Company.
like
That's what-
discriminate against
Yeah,
people.
I'm
know
glad we
small.
clarified what that was because there's many different acronyms that could have stand for. I'm sure most people know what it is, but there is plenty of things
Yeah.
that could have stand
so
for.
many.
I'm
Don't
sure
search that
many
up on
people
the
can.
internet. You're-
I'm sure
Yeah,
many
yeah.
people
Do
can.
not Google that.
Sure many of people can come up with their things, or
well, that's a
search it
big
up, but-
difference. Like I'm already because BBC is such a huge station in the UK. Like it's a big like it's a huge, like they put like Doctor Who and all the British stuff, they put the news on there. You know, our equivalent over here is like PBS, which has like what, Sesame Street. You know, there's not really an American equivalent of like a free station that is made really for the people other than PBS, which just nobody really watches. It's all privatized. So there's like a bajillion different channels for, like, I don't think PBS has a news outlet. I could be wrong. Maybe they do.
So here you're speaking on that, and you're getting ahead of me on some of that stuff. I pulled up a list because we were planning this out already. So I pulled up a list of differences between the UK and Americas. One of the things that was pulled up on this list was television. It says for American culture, like this is just brief stuff, so it's not like it says, oh, it's because of this or that. But I love how it's described here because it says television, American culture, too many channels and programming. British culture, channels are limited and too few as compared to America. So it's not that either one is better or worse. It's you got the two opposite sides. You have the US, which has too many, and then you have the British who have too few.
Well, for the longest time, we had 5 television channels. That was it.
5.
Like, that was it. There were 5 channels. So there was the main BBC for the British Broadcasting stuff, which had all of the important stuff on it. And obviously, we had our soaps and everything, EastEnders and Coronation Street and all the madness. Then there was BBC 2. That was the second channel. That was what we used to dub for the old and the smart people. That used to show like all the history documentaries, and it used
So you
to
didn't
show
just have one BBC, you had
like
two.
smart. No,
two
we had
BBC.
2. It had
Wow.
smart people stuff, and then there was ITV, which was a little bit trashier because they got money from advertising. So on the BBC, this is another thing that Americans probably won't know. If you watch a BBC broadcasted television show, nowhere in that TV show will there be an actual branded product because
Wow.
they are totally publicly funded. They are not allowed to advertise anything.
Oh,
They
yeah.
don't run adverts during their shows, like during the breaks between their shows. They only advertise their own things and like government stuff or NHS health related things.
Is
but
that
there are
still
no
the case
adverts. There
even
is on
today?
ITV, but not on BBC because they're not allowed. They're purely
Wow.
funded by the public.
They still, and that's still even today,
Yeah, even to this
purely.
day, like if you watch like Doctor Who, say, or the older ones especially, I don't know how it is now because I haven't watched it in a long time, but if you watch the older ones, you'll notice even if they have food products or baking products or cleaning products, whatever, none of it will be Bran related. It's all just generic, a box of something.
Wow.
See, I don't know if
Oh,
we
it
have
just
that. Like, we do have the Canadian Broadcasting Association, which is we call it the CBC.
the CBC.
Yeah, we have the CBC, which is headquarters down in Toronto, which is which is actually not far from me. I actually used to always walk by the building.
Okay.
I don't know if it's as like the BBC, where it's free. Like, we do have news outlets, and there is programming through the CBC, and I'm pretty sure most TV networks will provide CBC to you because it's regulated to do that. Although obviously you have to pay for your cable and everything. That's that's the only way to get it. But I don't know if there would be product placement. I feel like there would, because I don't think it's publicly funded. The CBC or
Really?
or it may be, but the programming has advertisements in that. I know there is, because there's
Yeah,
always
I know
but,
PBS over here has ads in it for sure, like actual ads.
but I'd have to
Yeah,
look up if the
whereas
CBC
here,
is publicly funded or not.
it's just ITV. It's really funny to watch the difference between the soaps because like every major channel over here has like a major soap opera like British show that like goes along with it. So the
Oh
BBC's
man,
is the BBC's EastEnders, which is
I
like
miss
the
cable
London-based
television.
one. And yeah, you'll see them like in the pub, like because they have obviously houses, corner shops, and pubs, but none of it is brand stuff because they're a
Right.
BBC show. Whereas if you go to the one that's done by ITV, which is Coronation Street, it's further up north. They have much filthier mouths, but everything is branded because they
Everything.
have advertising deals, and that's how they make a lot of their money to be able to put stuff on. So you're
Yeah.
like front and center. You've got Kellogg's cornflakes. Oh yeah.
Tasty.
Tasty. Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting. So is cable television still pretty big over there? I know it's
It's gotten a
um
lot bigger now. So after the whole everyone kind of my age spent their childhoods growing up with 5 terrible channels, only 3 of which were any good. Well, 2 of which
right.
if you were under the age of 40.
Eh,
We got a thing called Freeview come in, where you got like a certain amount of like different channels on like a free kind of subscription thing as long as you paid your TV license. But we also
really?
have like Sky, and so like I have Sky TV because I I do, because we like watching MTV, that's why.
Okay.
We like Catfish. And Catfish is on Sky.
I don't know what that is. I have no idea. This is all going over my head. I have no idea. Now,
But
MTV, is that the same one as here? Is that like
yeah, so essentially what we have is I suppose what would be your like cable providers. We don't call it cable over here. It's just we have a couple of big companies that do like TV packages, and the more money you pay, the more channels you can get access to. And we have plenty
huh?
of access to American channels and stuff now as well.
Yeah, I know cable's like really it's really going just definitely not as many people subscribing to cable nowadays. Uh you know, and when you do to subscribe to cable, it's like over here you got like 200 channels of just garbledygook that you have no idea,
Oh
and
yeah.
everybody just wants to like, log on to Netflix and watch the one show they want to watch, or log on. Now everything is streaming services. Just everything is streaming services here in America.
Well,
Yeah,
I
I
think
mean
that's
it
where everything's going in general, is streaming services.
yeah.
It's not just
Yeah.
America. Obviously, it's might be more prevalent, noticeable possibly, but it's not everything. It's not just America specifically. It's everywhere that's
Well,
going.
yeah.
That's going to go to that because it's easier, simpler, and on demand.
Yeah, exactly. It's not the annoying thing of, oh, when's so and so on, or I gotta set so and so to record, or whatever. I mean,
PVRs,
we keep
PVRs.
our TV. I'm on like the cheapest Sky package you can have and still have access to like a decent amount of TV. But we very rarely use it other than to watch stuff that we can't get access to on streaming services.
Right.
Because Leo has Amazon Prime, I have Disney Plus, like
Right.
pretty
Yeah.
much
I mean,
everything
yeah,
we want to
yeah.
watch
The
exists
streaming
somewhere
services are
now.
definitely still prevalent. I'm sure, like everywhere else. Like,
It
it's
just depends what you want to
really
watch, though. I guess in a way, because there's certain things that are like, and again, I think this is why maybe America might be a little bit more noticeable. Is that there are certain things that are put on streaming websites that are more noticeable than others, because like obviously like certain sports things or certain live televisions or certain TV that was made for TV isn't put on for television. Although in America, I've seen that more some of these broadcasting things have translated to be like, oh yeah, it's also on the streaming, so you can get it on
Right.
demand in some kind of way. So I feel like that's part of it that could be noticeable. Like I don't know, obviously I don't know if Sky TV does that or anything, or any British kind
Well,
of
we
TV do
have
that.
yeah, we have a whole bunch of British ones. So not only do we have the aptly named BritBox,
That's
which
great.
is
That's awesome.
Wait,
yeah,
hold on. No, we're talking about the Brit box. Oh,
yeah,
we're talking about something called the Brit box.
yeah, BritBox is a like a streaming collection of like any British TV you could ever want that has existed in like the past 70 years or so, like up until the new year.
That's
So
amazing.
all of our like TV channels and stuff, they all collaborate with each other. That's the one thing that like our
That's
country actually does that America doesn't.
Oh, Waffles left. Oh,
My camera
no,
exploded.
Waffles died.
Oh my
He's
God.
screwing up my
Oh,
stuff.
it's screwed it
Camera's
up.
gone.
Oh no, it's all freaked
Oh,
out.
it broke everything.
He's
Oh no, my
he's screwing
camera.
up my stuff.
No.
Waffles.
God damn it, Waffles.
Even when he's not streaming, he's finding a way to screw it up. He's finding a way to screw my stuff up, and
We'll
he's
be back
not
after
even the
these
one
technical
streaming.
difficulties.
hang on, let me, hang on.
Okay,
When
I
he
fixed
comes
it.
back, let me,
It's fixed. We're good.
where am I? Not that one. Hang on, I gotta
Nothing
find which one it
bad
is. I don't know
happened.
which one. It's that one. There we go. Waffles.
Hello, hi Aria. Oh my god, hi Aria.
Waffles.
Oh,
You done gone fucked up, Waffles.
hi Aria. I don't think we addressed the fact that Aria is a VTuber.
We got our first VTuber on. Oh my god, we got our first VTuber on.
Yeah.
Although I'm
Oh,
used, I'm used to VTubers at this point, so that's why I didn't even mention anything. But we do
Right.
have a VTuber on.
Yes.
Yeah.
Hello. Yes,
Yeah,
I am
didn't-
all fancy.
Yeah, Aria looks way cooler than we do. Just thought I'd point that out.
Oh yeah, we look awful.
Yeah.
Look
I can take
at
my
this
hat off
guy,
too.
and then look at this one, and look at this one again, and then compare to that. And then look at all the
Right.
hats already off with the ears too. Like there we go.
Yeah, I took my hat off so you can actually see my ears. Hang on, I can also do this. Are you ready for random cuteness? Which button is it? That one. No, not that one. That one. Hi.
Oh my god, we got like a half chibi.
Oh
kind of
my
version.
god. Oh, it's a little
got chibi
chibi,
mode.
little
I got
chibi
chibi
VTuber.
mode.
If anybody's listening to this podcast, they have no idea what
You
we're
have
talking
no
about.
idea, and I suggest
She's
checking
an
out the
anime character,
Yes.
and she looks amazing.
Yes, we got a VTuber. If you are listening to this instead of watching it, you should go definitely 100% watch it. This is the best place for me to do this. You can go see it on YouTube, which you should, or Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or Amazon Music, all in the name WaffleBran Podcast, although that title is confused because I haven't tried this out with cameras. So I know I need to adjust that later. But I suggest go checking out one of those. If you are listening to this, go check out the video so you can see what we're talking about. And if you can't, just listen to us. It's always helpful.
Yeah.
Give us a
Just
follow
listen to
or a
us rant.
subscribe on any of those websites as well. And that really helps us out. Anyways, yeah.
Heck yeah.
Enemy. You know, to be fair, it
Anyway.
does follow suit with what we were talking about last time, because the last podcast was about anime. Again, go check that out if you haven't. But that definitely leads into having a VTuber on the next episode. Unfortunately, we didn't have the VTuber on during the anime episode, but we did talk about it
Right.
last time, and it kind of leads into this.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's our
totally
segue.
planned.
Yeah.
Totally planned.
Yeah, we were talking about anime.
Don't lie to people. We don't plan our stuff.
Everyone knows waffles don't plan shit, man.
No, what? No, everything is meticulously planned.
Hang on.
I am not
Let
just
me
winging things
let me
all the
just check
time.
this. Let me just check this book a minute. Number of times waffles
Definitely.
successfully. Yeah, no, none. Absolutely none.
What do you have to say about that
Absolutely none.
conviction, Waffles?
I feel like that was just an excuse for Aria to pull out her cool VTuber, her VTuber character just pulled out an awesome looking book.
I
like
got
a
even
spell
more
book.
toys, but I won't show off.
Just about to cast Avada Kedavra on me or whatever the heck it is.
I mean, that's my other fireball.
Burn him alive! Burn him alive!
Okay, we gotta go back to Brit. Okay, so we talked about the Brit box, which, by the
Yes.
way, could you imagine if there was such a thing called the Murica box? And
No,
it was just-
not really.
America.
That sounds awful.
yes, it does sound awful.
That naming sounds awful in the first place.
Murica box. They
Is
just have
that where they show your movie of you exploding, Waffles? Is that
yeah?
that's the only program that's on?
Yeah. That's
This
yeah.
defines
funded the
American
Murica
culture.
box,
This
and
random
it's-
guy exploding for a movie.
It's just Waffles exploding for 2 hours straight, which was my movie pitch that I had last podcast. Which, by the way, is our most viewed one so far. It's just called Waffles Explodes the Movie. Which I don't know
Hey,
how I
people
feel
obviously love your movie ideas.
Oh no, I wouldn't go that far, man. More people are concerned about it. What the hell does that mean?
No, people just want to see me explode. Let's be real. But
Well,
okay. So we were
yeah.
talking about the Brit box, and then so the Brit box just has all sorts of just it's pretty much just they shoved all the Britain they could into
yeah, like
Britain,
pretty much all of like our classic comedies, sitcoms, like anything that's ever been made, essentially that is British. They just shoved it all in one place so that people can get a hold of it. And then like
Okay.
BBC and ITV also have their own like online streaming things. So everything that is on the TV, you can also watch on the internet.
Okay, so
Like,
it's also
all
kind of
synced.
shifting
So
towards
you can
that,
like you
too.
can watch that box set, watch stuff. You can watch stuff live. Like you don't have to have a TV.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Like I said, PBS here definitely not as like I actually know more stuff from BBC than I do like PBS. Like
Waffles
our
loves the
own public.
BBC.
Huh? What did I call it?
Nothing. Go.
Did I
Just
call it the
continue on.
PBS?
Just everyone else will know. Just continue on. Go. Keep going.
What?
Keep going, Waffles.
I love BBC. It's a great station. What? I'm very confused.
Our poor innocent Gryffindor of a waffle.
But so do I. You guys got dirt. You guys got dirty minds. Y'all dirty. Y'all nasty. Y'all nasty.
Oh my god! It's just so great that you didn't hear what I said and then went to go say it, and then it just perfectly translates to like immediately be like, yeah, Waffles likes this, and he goes like, I don't know what you said, but I do like this, and it's like,
but I mean, okay, we're just gonna like, what else do I love the British Broadcasting Channel. There, are you?
No, but it was
now?
supposed to be the joke that was in place, and that's why I said it. Like that's literally what I said. I literally said Waffles loves BBC, and then you didn't hear me, and then go confirm that you love BBC.
We're moving on. We're moving forward from this topic of conversation. We're gonna move forward to talking about British television. Yeah, so I'm gonna completely switch subjects now. Biggest thing I know from Britain, Doctor Who. That's pretty much one
Yeah,
of the
that's
biggest
the big
television
one.
shows. That and Monty Python. Those are the two things that I really know from British television. Like those are the biggest, most popular things. Even over here, like I don't think there's many people who haven't seen like Monty Python and the Holy Grail and stuff like that. You know, that kind of stuff was
Yeah.
huge.
I think the possibly one of the other ones, especially if you're an old school comedy fan, is Blackadder.
Yeah, I don't think it's definitely not as big over here.
No,
Nobody
but
has
it's
any idea what we're talking when I'm talking about. I know what it is because I love Rowan Atkinson. He's a
oh,
treasure.
so Rowan
Uh,
Atkinson is a god.
love
Yeah,
that
Mr.
man.
Mr.
Bean
Bean's a
as
good one.
well.
Top Gear's a pretty good
Oh,
one
Great
too.
British Bake
Top
Off.
Gear
Yeah,
and
okay.
the Bake Off.
Yeah.
Yeah, everyone knows
Yeah.
about the goddamn Bake Off. Oh, fuck.
Yeah, and Mr. Bean. Everybody knows Mr. Bean. Another more Rowan Atkinson, but definitely more people are familiar with Mr. Bean than Blackadder for sure.
Than with Blackadder,
Yeah. Which is it's Rowan Atkinson and he plays like historical characters and it's just classic British comedy where he plays historical characters and they all have that really dry British humor that I love. I love that style of humor.
Yeah, it is some
I
of
wish there was more British comedy here.
some of the best British actors were at some point part of Blackadder. Like all of our comedy greats, they're all in there because that entire like generation. It's also the same with the Carry On films. Some
I
people
don't
have
know
kind
what
of
the carry-on films are.
No, I don't either.
yeah, well, some of the guys who did Monty Python and a couple of like of our other greats, there's a whole series of Carry On films, and what they are essentially is parodies of everything. It's over the top British dry sarcasm and filthy jokes. So like there's Carry On Camping, where they all go on a camping trip and they get super lost. And there's like recurring sort of archetypal characters, and it's just a good old-fashioned dry British humor. Like they're really good, like old-fashioned, like thigh-slapping, good British times. You know,
oh, what is a good British time? Yeah,
exactly. But yeah, of course, everyone knows, you know, Doctor Who, whether it's the old ones or like the reboot. I didn't watch a lot of the old ones. My ex was kind of obsessed with them, and I kind of hated them on principle. But I like most of the reboots, so I've watched enough of it to like know it and be able to talk about it and stuff. But
like the old Doctor Who's, like the ones way back in the day where they were just using practical effects and all that stuff. And
yeah, it's all black and white and
oh man,
hand mechanical doors and all the old props, but they all exist still in all the different museums and stuff. I think all the Doctor Who stuff is in Cardiff now, at what used to be the Torchwood building, where they used to film a bunch of stuff. They have like a whole big museum with all of the old like Dalek models and the Cybermen, the original ones and everything.
oh yeah. So a lot of people will scream blasphemy at me, but I've not seen, I don't think, a single episode of Doctor Who ever in my entire life. I have not watched any Doctor Who, but it's such a cultural phenomenon that I know a lot about the series
know enough
just
about it.
from how popular, like, I know all the memes, like the little robot that comes input. I know all the things. I know the sonic screwdriver and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
know enough on
crazy.
it to do some, to at least understand some of the culture things.
Like
even though you may not
I
know
see a
it.
red phone booth and I think Doctor Who before I start thinking Superman, which is crazy because
That's
Superman
a good
was
judge
the
of
big American
character,
thing.
that. Put them in front of a red phone booth. What's the first thing you think of?
Right? That's how you test somebody's America versus Britain. You see a red phone booth. Who's the first character you think of?
Yeah.
Honestly, I didn't even think of Superman for that because it's such a weird thing to do, because I feel like also like red phone booths are associated with the UK rather than the US. Whereas if you think of phone booths in the US, it's some rundown, crappy ass thing that's not painted.
Yeah.
So like,
yeah. Well, also phone booths are a thing of the past now. They're pretty.
Well,
But
most
even-
of ours got
even
turned
before.
into defibrillator stations.
Oh, interesting.
What they did with most of our old phone booths is they've turned into emergency helplines and emergency first aid and defibrillator stations.
Yeah, I don't
That's
think the US
cool.
would ever do that.
No, we
No,
tore
God,
ours down.
Yeah.
We got
No,
we
you-
put up a
you-
guy
you-
going,
you're-
Kellogg's cornflakes.
You're wasting money on tearing it down. You're tearing it down in the first place, Waffles? Are you sure?
Right. We just put a building on top of it.
I don't even know if you do that. You just leave it there and wouldn't touch the damn thing.
Sir Fan says that they actually watched Doctor Who before they understood the English language, which just shows like
God, that must have been a
how
time.
prevalent it is throughout Europe and stuff like that. It was just,
Yeah.
such a crazy cultural phenomenon that I didn't even hear about. I didn't even hear about it until the digital age, until the internet was really like a big thing. Like I had no idea that existed until I was like past my teens, and then everybody started talking about Doctor Who. So it definitely was one of those things. It's definitely a more recent addition to popular US culture. Like a lot of people have heard of Doctor Who now, but back in the day, they
Back
had
in
no
my
idea.
day. Sorry, I have to,
They had no idea what
I have
Doctor
to
Who
make that
was.
joke as the youngest person here. I gotta make the joke.
Back
Damn it,
in
Bran,
my
you
day.
feel old. I mean, the reboot helped a lot because
Yeah.
they restarted it in 2005. I believe
Mhm.
was it 2005? think it was
Yeah, early
2005.
2000s when I started seeing it on like the Sci-Fi Channel.
Yeah,
here.
because that's when they rebooted it. They did the first season with one guy, and then the second season was when David Tennant came in. And that is who a lot of people associate with Doctor Who now, is David Tennant. And that
Right,
was
yeah,
when he
that's
came in, was like
that's what
2006.
I think. Yeah, when I
Yeah,
think
it's like
Doctor Who.
2006, and then for like 5 years or so, it was just all Tennant, and he was so good at it as well that it just kind of took off again and kind of grew everywhere and got this mind of its own. And then with the internet, they went and found all of the old tapes and all of the old reels from like the 50s and the 60s and all the black and white episodes and re-uploaded them. So a bunch of people were then going back and watching all the old episodes as well.
Yep.
So
Yeah,
it
the
just
David
kind of
Tennant, and then
spreads.
well, right when I think Doctor Who now, I think the more what was the more recent one? Was it the David Tennant? Was it who was the one with the nice? He had the nice slicked back hair and like I'm trying to think of who all the doctors are, and my brain is just absolutely melting down.
Well, the
from
first season of the new one's back was Christopher Eccleston. A lot of people didn't like him. I thought he was quite good, but eh. Then it was David Tennant. He did a couple of seasons. He did the specials as well with like the bus that got lost on Mars, and a whole bunch of stuff.
Yeah,
Then Matt
you could
Smith
name as many
was
specific
next.
episodes as you want. I will have no clue.
Matt
I'm
Smith
so
is the one
lost.
who
I
is
was
best
lost a while ago.
known for fish fingers and custard. Fish fingers and custard.
Fish fingers and custard.
Yep, that's what Matt Smith was known for.
Who's the guy? Who's the guy with like he's got the he's got the beautiful hair in front, and it's all it's very well like oiled pretty much, and
It's probably Tennant if you're thinking of a hot one. Outfit is the best thing.
Was
Got
he
to have
hot,
a distinctive
Waffles?
outfit.
is
What
that
was
is
he
that the
wearing?
same one?
That would be easier.
Where he wears the bow tie.
Oh
and
no,
the-
bow
and the
tie
brown
is Matt
suit.
Smith. Where the guy who wore a fez, the one who wears the fez, that's Matt Smith. He's the younger one.
Okay. Is that who I'm thinking of? That's the one I think of. Like when I
Yes,
think Doctor Who,
That's Matt Smith.
as it is popular, the Matt Smith Doctor Who is like the big culturally the one that has made its way over here enough to be well known. Like when we think Doctor Who right now, the Matt Smith one is definitely the one that comes up. Like that's
fair. I think he was definitely the one who was memed the most and had
Yeah.
like the funniest episodes. Like he's kind of, if you sit there and watch them all, he was the fun Doctor.
He
Like
was the fun one.
fun one.
Nonsense episodes.
What else is on your list, Bran, by the way?
So
we can because if we could talk about British
Well,
television.
yeah, because I'll ramble for hours otherwise.
Yeah.
Okay, so I want to walk through a few of these things. We can pick some of them out after. But I just found this list, and it's hilarious. I just laugh. I got a good giggle out of it, just because all of it is true, but just the way they short form it is just great. So the first one of American culture versus British culture. Location. I don't know who would have come up with that, but location is the first cultural difference. Let's take a look at what it possibly could mean. In American culture, location is the United States of America. Didn't expect that. Did not expect that.
Did you get this off of like BuzzFeed or something?
No, not really. But British culture difference. If anyone wants to take a guess, you can go ahead. But
Britain over there, America over here.
But the location difference for the British culture is the United Kingdom, mainly Britain. They specify that, which is, to be fair, that's understandable-ish, because it's normally the United Kingdom and Northern Ireland, so it's kind of makes sense. But still, I'm just laughing that it specifies Britain too.
See,
I guess Scotland and stuff could be a little bit different as well. But
I will drop a little nugget of info. There is technically a difference between Great Britain and the United Kingdom. So Great Britain is England, Wales, Scotland. It's all the stuff that's connected. When it's the United Kingdom, then you include Northern Ireland.
Yeah, it says United Kingdom, so it says mainly Britain.
So yeah, if it's United Kingdom, you include Northern Ireland as well, but then of course they're connected to the rest of Ireland who do their own fucking thing.
Yeah, I get really confused when it comes to UK politics, so I apologize if at any point in this
I'm from here and I get
podcast
confused
that
too.
my
Fine.
American stupid ignorance
my
comes
Americanness.
out. My Americanness comes out and I have no idea. You know, like if I refer to Ireland as part of the UK and you're like, Ireland is not part of the UK or something like
part
that.
Of the UK. What you talking about, laddie? What you talking about?
Okay.
Like I have no idea.
So-
I am not. I don't even know the politics of my own country, let alone anything else.
So I'll move on. So we'll continue on. So the next difference is behavior. So American culture. In American culture, behavior tends to be more hectic and appear in a hurry.
Well, these are some broad strokes on this list. It's just like the differences between the UK and the US. Culture.
Well, one is on this side of the sea, and this one is on the other side of the sea.
I love this. British culture tends to be a little bit more laid back in their behavior. That's what this says.
I mean, that's true.
Yeah, which is why I'm like,
to be fair,
obviously
big difference.
Yeah, it's like when you get to the end of it, you're like, I mean, you've made a point. I don't know why you've made it the way you have.
Exactly. So, meeting people. The next one is meeting people and making friends. By the way, if anyone sees me looking out over here the entire time, it is because I have most of my setup over here now, where my camera's that way. I have a second laptop and an iPad over here with chat on it. Their Discord is over here with their screen on it.
Set up over there.
Yeah, the only thing in front of me is my OBS, and that's where the camera is. Unfortunately, where I placed it. So if I'm looking here the entire time, it is because I'm looking between my Discord with them on it, which is over here, and chat, which is over here, as well as my laptop, which has my stuff on it. So.
Bran showed us a picture of his setup, and it's just like 10 monitors plus his like stream deck, and he's just sitting there. Like,
I got two stream decks.
I got the International Space Station.
Yeah, I got two stream decks, one mini, one normal one, and to flip between screens and everything. But like, yeah, I'm looking over here because of that. Okay, so meeting people and making friends. American culture. People are more likely to start a conversation with strangers in public areas. Or in public places, it says. British culture, people do not like to common with strangers and tend to stick to their old and close group of friends. That's tends to be what it is.
Yeah, that's not.
I have to admit that from what I've heard, that is the case. Is that most British people will not talk to anyone else. If you go over there, you do not start a conversation. Otherwise, they're like, "What?
God no." Well, it's like the whole. So I will say one way you can really tell that difference is customer service. So like I went to America with my sister and my mum a while ago because we went to Universal, and it freaked us all out how the second you walk into a shop, someone is in your face. Hi, hello. How can I help you today? What are you looking for? What would you like to do? And we're like, holy shit, what the fuck? You walk into a store in Britain, there is nothing. You gotta pace the store for a good 15 minutes before you try and find someone who's gonna help you. Because no, we want as little human contact as possible, please.
Yeah.
So again, it's fair. Like, so like I was looking at him like, yeah, that's pretty fair because you go to America or even in most places in Canada, and people are quite chatty. You could say in quotes. People like to talk. People will ask you questions, and you could find some random person in a public area, and they'll start talking to you for some damn reason, even though you don't necessarily want it, but they will.
Yeah, it's very kind of that part of the culture is very pervasive. It's like if you see somebody and you're walking past them on the street, it's almost more awkward to just ignore them or not initiating conversation
like
than to like acknowledge them and be like, hey, how's it going? Hey, what's up? You know, it's very like if you just ignore them and stuff like that, it's like you're being rude. That's a huge part.
No, God, no. Giant faux pas in this country. Like, even people who you vaguely recognize because, like, they live near you, right? So I know one of my neighbors. The rest I kind of know on sight. If I see any of them while I'm, like, doing my little walk around the neighborhood or anything, the most you do if you see someone that you kind of know but you don't know well enough to know is you maybe give a little head jut, a little acknowledgement that you kind of like know each other. You're in the vague same space, but no, you say any more than that, you start words. That's a huge faux pas over here.
This is even in like the rural countryside, right? Like that's I mean, there's a difference here. Like if you're in the city and you're past, you know, like if you're in New York, you're not gonna frickin' say hi to everybody you're walking past.
No, but you will have people who do that. That's the difference. There
will be people.
The chances of that happening in the UK is a lot less in dense cities.
Yeah.
Whereas in New York, if you're going down there, there's probably someone 9 times out of 10 that may try to start a conversation with you. You may deny it because you got headphones in and you're walking straight past them, but they might try. Right.
Yeah, no, here, if you're in a super small town, I mean, we're in a relatively rural, small-ish place. If you see people you know, then sure, you'll go up and start a conversation. But other than that, no. The most you might say to someone in the street is like, I don't know, there's a car about to hit you. Maybe that's the case in which you talk to a stranger over here. Is excuse me, you're walking in front of a car.
There's a lorry coming at you.
Other than that, like you know, you just don't. You just don't.
Yeah, and again, this is very broad. So this doesn't apply to everywhere across both countries. It's very broad, especially because, again, America is so big. There's huge differences between everything. So this is very broad, and this is why I find it funny. Sense of humor.
Yeah, there's no really broad brush to paint a lot of America with because there's so many places.
I love this. I honestly love this one. Love to hear what your thoughts are on this one. Sense of humor. Americans tend to be more straightforward and
self-deprecating is not a wrong answer either. Ha 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 ha! You did.
That's Fridays for waffles.
That's Friday for waffles.
Self-defecating. Yeah, I scare the shit out of myself on a Spoopy Friday stream. No, that's not wrong.
Yeah. So
self-defecating, I think, is a pretty appropriate description of American culture.
Tends to be more straightforward and self-deprecating, which I find funny. Whereas British culture tends to be more sarcastic and satirical, which Fair enough.
Like, I say to anyone who is not overly familiar with British people, if you know, especially in text, because it's so hard to read tone in text, if a British person is ever talking to you, just assume it's said with sarcasm. Because it generally is. Like, we rarely say anything without sarcasm or a
Some
satirical
subtle hint of
undertone
sarcasm or something like
or
that. Yeah.
just in general being a dick. Like, that's just kind of what we do. Like, we've seen so
Again,
much shit in
broad
the
strokes.
country.
You
We've
know,
just
it's
given
gonna
up at
change
this
from person
point.
to person, just like anywhere else, but still, yeah. I mean,
Yup.
I know enough British people, and I've talked to enough British people, and I've watched enough British television to
Really, Waffles? Really? Have you? Have you really?
well, I get the gist. You know, I can at least, you know, I understand that stuff. Whereas I feel like a common American, um, is gonna find there's definitely gonna be that cultural wall if they try to have a conversation. It's gonna
I mean,
be.
I find that when I play, like, Jackbox games with you guys,
Mhm.
like, there can be times where, like, if Leo is playing with us, especially, where I'll make a joke and Leo will find it fucking hilarious. None of you guys get it, and I'm just like, "It's a British thing, isn't it?" And he's like, "Yes, dear, it's a British thing." I'm like,
It's a
"God
So-
damn
British
it."
thing, yeah.
So on my journey of looking for stuff, I found this article, and this was included in it. So this is from, it says vocal.media. I don't know what this is website is. I just was looking at stuff. This person moved over in 2013 and wrote an article on this about 10 funny things they of cultural difference. So they moved from America to the UK. Number 3 is you're friendly to people you don't like and downright mean to your best friends. The article states, my attitude to making friends, I pretended are the best, or my best friends. You invite them over, gushed about them to them. I chat to anyone without any awkwardness or shame. It's always worked for me. However, when I moved to the UK, I noticed that my soon-to-be best friend was acting super weird, and that I tried a technique on her. She was very cold to me, and I left her, and then they left her alone. They later found out years later that the interpretation of their overly top niceness was considered to be bullying, they thought. So she thought because she was so, the person from the UK thought she was being so nice that she was actually bullying that person. Whereas, because in British culture, you would just make fun of them. And that's what they found out later, that they thought, they didn't realize the cold attitude was because they thought they were, the actual person from the UK thought they were being bullied because they were too nice. Whereas in the UK, you would just completely outright disrespect them, which I found funny.
Yeah, it's one of those things, you know how some people are like, "Oh, you know, I really love you because I'd fucking kill you." Like, that's the Brits in general. Like,
Yeah.
if you really don't like someone, then you force smile and you deal with them and you're cordial, and all the
Right.
while you're like, fucking bitch.
Which to be fair,
But-
I think I've taken from the British culture, because anyone's
Oh,
close to me, I'd fucking diss on this shit. Like,
Right.
again, example,
You're overly
waffles.
nice.
Yeah, I was gonna say it depends on what part of America you're in. If you're in like more of a rural place, that tends to be people used to generally have a kind of a thicker skin, and they kind of just like, you know, you definitely like you talk crap about your bros and stuff like that, and it's a very, you know, my family, boy, the more they rag on you, that means the more they love you. And so I'm used to that kind of you know, that kind of display of love, I guess. But you know, it definitely changes depending on what part of the US you're in, or specifically what, like, your, you know, how your family is. There is a lot of US culture that's just like smile and act, you know, proper and all that kind of stuff, and
Which
be
is
as proper as
funny coming from the
possible.
Americans.
Yeah.
Right,
See, I think
yeah.
the thing is
Be
that
proper. Yeah.
as a country, like as a people, it sounds really weird to say, But compared to the Americans, we have been around so much longer. It always makes me laugh when you talk to Americans like, oh yeah, we study history in school. Yeah, American history. I'm like, you realize America's like 300 years old, right? That's
Oh
like the
yeah.
last 5 minutes for us.
Oh yeah. We'll talk about schooling. Can we use that as a segue
Yeah,
to
we'll have
talk
to
Well,
move
about
on to that.
schooling?
That one's great.
I'll keep moving on, and then we'll come back to that. So we've done television. So drinks. This one was interesting. I didn't really understand it too much, but American culture tends to be drink coffee, beer, and wine. I'm surprised there's 2 alcohols on that thing, which was curious that they didn't put anything else. But it's coffee, beer, wine. British culture or UK culture tends to be tea, beer, surely, and wine is usually on occasions.
I'll add on to that and say also another American thing I've noticed between America and Britain. Um, if you're daily drinking in America, it's kind of frowned upon more. Like if you're drinking all the time.
That was another article I found with so you're getting ahead of me again, but yeah, go ahead.
Well, I mean, it all goes together. Like if you're drinking all the time, that's kind of like frowned upon in America, where it's like you're an alcoholic at that point. Whereas in the Britain, it's just like it's
Fuck
just
it.
a common. Yeah,
Fuck
it's
it.
just
As long
kind
as you're
of just what they
functioning,
do.
you're fine over here.
We'll talk about pub culture later because that is another thing that's on a list, another list. But yes, that does to be does very typical where it is in America and even here you do not drink all the time, whereas it is very standard to do that in the UK.
Right. Yeah.
We'll move on.
And the difference in drinks is, we mostly drink, America likes beer. We drink beer, and that's pretty much your casual daily drink. College students will, drink harder stuff constantly. I prefer having my Moscow mules, as anybody who watches my stream knows. But in general, if you're around the water cooler here, you're all drinking a beer. And that's pretty much the drink of America.
So this one kind of interested me, and because it's again very broad and really strange. So we're talking about food and cuisine. So you could guess anything for food and cuisine, but apparently what they decided to only put on here was that American culture tends to be more fast food enjoyers, whereas UK culture tends to be more pub food is preferred. I can see that, but I'm surprised that that's what you put on. Again, understandable, but I don't know why that's the food. You put a broad subject of food and cuisine, and yet put fast food and pub food.
I think the difference is that we do have a decent amount of fast food. The difference is that our nutrient regulations and stuff are way higher than yours. So even places you guys have that we have, we had a Taco Bell recently show up near us.
Hold on, pronounce that.
Oh my god, it's like being with Asher all over again.
I'm sorry. This is an episode about the differences between the UK and Britain. I would like you to pronounce Taco Bell, please.
Taco Bell. Taco Bell. What?
Taco Bell. Taco Bell.
Well, we were comparing. I had Astra pull up the menu for her local one, and we pulled up ours.
Oh no!
And just the amount of stuff that you guys have in yours that do not make it into our country is ridiculous. Well, even the stuff that is the same, the calorie content and everything is so different.
Well, something we can go over, but I don't know if we'd go over this today. There's a huge difference, and this is even between Canada and the U.S. in food safety quality between the U.S. and everywhere else. It is a lower grade standard of U.S. And that's why fast food is either higher calorie or tastes worse, or there's so many more additives that will not make it past borders and only exist within the U.S. Because of regulations that the U.S. has compared to other countries. So a lot of things will not make it on other menus, or will have a better, if not different taste, or better healthiness, I put that in quotes, in other countries, because the U.S. regulations for fast food and food in general is at such a low quality of standard for a first world country. I'll say that to specify.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of things that will not make it past the borders, not even into Canada. Because
there's a big there's a big difference in food standards. I know between the UK and the US and Europe in general. I'll just say Europe in general and the US. Definitely a big difference in food standards and stuff like that.
We can talk about that later because I know we want to get onto food maybe in food here, but another podcast about food, which we can talk about at some point.
Yeah, we can go into a food podcast. We'll save that. We'll bench that topic for a future food podcast. But in general, I mean, food is a big part of culture too, though, right? Like, but
why is it like, again, I'm going to go back to the article or the thing. It's just saying, it's a big thing. So why is it fast food and pub food that's their comparison?
Don't even get a mention of like fish and chips or anything.
No, it literally.
Yeah, I mean, we're talking about Britain here. Let's talk fish and chips. Let's go fish and chips. The classic, the staple. We would not call it fish and chips here. In fact, fish not a big. There's no fat. Long John Silver's, I think, is the big fish chain, and it's not very popular here. It's definitely. It does not make that much money. We're all about cows here. Give us hamburgers, give us that kind of stuff. Whereas UK fish, big thing.
Yes, well, we are completely surrounded by water, so we had to make some use of it.
Yes, indeed.
Right.
Hi, Deadly.
Yep.
You can hate us all you want. We'll move off of it now. So that
he says I join in. The topic is food. I hate you guys.
Yeah, we'll move off of it now, so that we made you hungry, and now move away from it, so that if you came,
we'll have a whole podcast on food, so that everybody can be starving to death.
So the next one is sports. This one's kind of standard. Didn't surprise me too much. Nothing too funny about it, so I'll move it past quickly. But American culture tends to be baseball, American football, basketball, hockey, and car racing, which I was kind of laughed at.
NASCAR. Yeah, boy. You love me some NASCAR.
Yeah, I guess, but still. And then UK culture tends to be cricket, football, aka soccer, rugby, and tennis. Pretty standard, but still.
Yeah,
some of the
pretty classic stuff.
Right.
Also, I mean, let's talk about soccer versus football.
You mean football?
Right.
Football.
Whereas literally everywhere else in the world.
That shit you play that you call football. That is pussy rugby. And I will say that because you guys, I will explain, okay? You guys play the same game we play, except for the fact that you're allowed to pass the ball forwards. We don't do
that's
that
true.
rugby. We only pass it backwards. And we don't wear any padding.
I was going to say,
it's the same fucking game. It's pussy.
And you got more concussions in football still.
I apologize to all my American
football, I should specify.
Rugby.
I don't apologize in the slightest.
Rugby.
Rugby.
Oh my God. Those, in America, we're all about nobody needs a concussion. We want all the safety padding. We want the safety and
it
stuff
doesn't help
that.
still.
Rugby, they're just
it makes it worse. Honestly, it's the same with boxing. Ever since in boxing, it's properly documented that since they brought in boxing gloves, there is a higher rate of concussions, of issues, of everything, because you feel like you're safer. So you hit people harder.
Maybe,
It doesn't save it. You just rattle around inside it. We have so many less injuries in rugby because you feel it when you knock some bastard's teeth out. You don't want to hit them that hard.
There might be something to that. I don't know about the politics, but
I gotta read this because it's funny. Listen, Aria, this is from Deadly. Listen, Aria, they call it football because they tried to play actual football, aka soccer. They lacked the skill to actually play it with their feet, so they had to pick up the ball.
Yes, exactly. You end up playing hand egg.
Let's make it really strangely shaped so that it's a lot harder to kick it around the field.
No, I know. But Deadly's saying it's straightforward that you get that, and to be fair, that this is true because American culture, Canadian culture is not very prevalent with football, soccer, and they're not very good at it. So we suck at soccer. That's
Yes,
that's
yes,
the
we do.
plain line of it. It's just that we
Canada
cannot
didn't
play.
do too bad in the last World Cup, though.
No, but when's the last time Canada was in the World Cup?
Really quick.
When
I
was
just
it the
wanna
last time Canada
throw-
Canada or the U.S. was in the World Cup? There is a reason why it was such a big thing here in Canada. It's because there is not a huge culture around it. Because and it leads into
US got
professional.
pretty far in like didn't they get to the World Cup, the US in soccer dash football?
The
Di-
US did okay in the last one they were in, but they also got drawn with the easiest matches and the easiest groups of all time. Like,
What's crazy to me was the US actually being there though was the most I've heard any you know all the Americans talking to me about soccer was just completely out of left field because we never talk about soccer. Nobody watches
that's because you're
soccer
shit at it.
over here, right? But as soon as we were in the World Cup, everybody started talking about. They were like, "Hey, did you know America got into the World Cup in soccer?
Mhm.
Oh hell yeah, go Americans!" And I was like,
Well, we will have to see what happens, considering that it is coming to North America. Is it the next one or the one after that? I can't remember.
I'm not sure.
It might be 2025. I can't remember exactly which one it is, but it is the World Cup is coming to North America, and I specify North America because it is split between Mexico, the United States, and Canada. There is a couple games happening in Canada, a couple games happening in Mexico, but all the main ones and any playoffs will be happening in the U.S.
"Oh, that's interesting. Wow."
So, yeah,
trying to get US on the soccer train.
that is probably what's trying to happen. Probably trying to happen, but that is what's
which I'm all
happening.
for. I think sports should all be, me personally, I think
Who doesn't
sports are
play
a
any
lot more
sports?
interesting on like a world level as opposed to just a national level because it's really,
Oh, 2026.
competition is what brings a lot of cultures together, and I love that idea. I love the idea of, the Olympics and stuff like that, where all the cultures come together and try and compete against each other in like good sportsmanship and stuff like that. I think that's great. I want more people to be on international sports levels, as opposed to just, we got our own thing. You guys have your sports over there. I think uh, a good way to combine cultures is something like sports or competitions and stuff like that. That's it's a big meeting ground where everybody can kind of get together and go, yeah, my country, but also kind of respect the other country for like, okay, yeah, you guys play pretty good and stuff like that.
So I've been corrected.
So
It's
I'm all for it.
2026 World Cup, I was just 1 year off. So it is the next World Cup. I was just a year off of when it's played.
2026, the NA Cup.
Yeah,
Really quick. I want to just go back through comments really quick. I know I'm
Respect.
backtracking a little bit, but I want to I want to read out Deadly and Entertain's comments. Deadly goes, "The U.S. is almost completely surrounded by water, and Canada. So logically speaking, Canada's national food should be fish and maple syrup."
But no. Here's the difference: is that the UK is fully surrounded by water. Canada is not fully surrounded by water, considering.
Yeah, there's a lot of inland Canada,
but
upper Canada where nobody lives, it has a lot of water.
Well, no, even the coastlines too, like the coastline, because we're surrounded.
East and west coastlines.
We're surrounded, other than our south with you guys. But if you go to either the coast, you'll find a lot of farming or a lot of fish culture, because if you go to BC, there is British Columbia, that there is a lot of fishing happening there.
Oh yeah, the one thing I know about Newfoundland is boy, do they like fishing.
Yeah, which is what I was going to say, which is if you go east as well, if you go to Prince Edward Island, Nova Scotia, Newfoundland, Labrador, there is a lot of fishing culture there.
Yeah.
So
it's the same with the U.S.
Yeah, it happens. Depends where you really are, because anything inland, which is where I am, it's not as prevalent. But anything on the outskirts will definitely be, and especially if you're in Yukon, Northwest Territories,
especially northeastern United States, big fishing. I mean, I live in Michigan, which is surrounded by the world's largest natural bodies of fresh water. boy, do I hear a lot of talk about fishing. It's almost our whole culture in Michigan here in the US is based around fishing and stuff like that. So it's definitely based on location
Okay.
and things like that. We like our fish here.
You
But
wanted to move
and
on?
then Entertain said really quick. Sorry, I know I'm
No, I know. I
backtracking.
was just like, so we get to the comments that you
But
wanted
here in
to.
America, we just call fish and chips the number 2 combo.
Okay.
I mean, yeah, you don't even get fish and chips. You get a fish sandwich at McDonald's, and that's about as close as you get.
That's not
There's
real fish and chips, though.
right, exactly.
They do sell fish and chips, just not. That's definitely not one.
Yeah.
Of them.
Long John Silver's, yeah, that's pretty much where you're gonna find it.
So moving on, there's only a couple things. There's only 2 things left on this list. And then I can move on to a different one, or we can talk about something else that comes up. But the next one is the standard one, which is driving in America or America and Canada. We drive on the left-hand side. Cars tend to be automatic transmission, whereas in the UK, everyone drives on the right-hand side, and cars tend to be more manual transition. Makes sense.
Yeah,
that's about right.
You know, and it's
Nothing
not just the left hand, right hand side. That's the big differences. There's a lot more subtle differences too. Like, I know a lot of places in Europe have smaller roads. You guys, we leave a lot of space for our big chonky cars here.
Well, everything's a lot smaller, and then also there's a lot more roundabouts instead of stop signs.
Yeah,
and stuff
roundabouts
like
and stuff like that.
Roundabouts everywhere. Yup. And then not only that, but like you guys have more specific, like there are little differences that like freak me out. So like if there is a red light over here, you can't go anywhere. Doesn't matter where you're going.
You're right. You can make right-hand turns on red.
Whereas you guys can make right-hand turns on a red light. You can't do that here. That's totally no.
Every time.
Big bad no-no.
Unless there's a sign that says "Don't make a right-hand turn there," which scares the shit out of me sometimes.
There can be signs, yeah. No right turn.
Crossing the road in America was terrifying. There was like 4 lanes and people just go and like me and my sister, we ran for our life crossing the road in America. I am just like, I don't understand any of this. Your street signs and everything, it's all in the wrong place. So you can't tell like which light is for which crossing when you're on like a 4-way crossing. And I'm like, in the end, we just ran up the road and did what I'm pretty sure is illegal in your country, but fine in mine, which is just cross in the middle of the road when nothing was coming.
So here, there's already kind of crazy
would be
rules
jaywalking
with US drive. We don't do roundabouts a lot. Every single time we come to a roundabout and I'm with an American driver, everyone gets freaking time.
I've heard
they're
stories
just like, how do I deal with a roundabout? I don't know.
I've heard stories of people going the opposite way in a roundabout.
Like, yeah, there's all sorts of every time we come to a roundabout, almost every time there's a car honking somewhere at somebody who's doing it wrong.
Roundabouts are terrifying because there's so many people who don't know them. Like they're not very prevalent here, but they do exist, and they're especially in smaller suburban areas, they exist, and people should know how to use them. But depending on where you go, there are some people who really don't know how to use them, and I'm always terrified to go around them because I don't know if the people are, because I know what I'm doing, but I don't know if anyone else knows what they're doing. Because
that's the big thing about driving is, do they know what they're doing?
Well, I'm always scared because people signal to get onto it, and they put their signal on to get onto it, but they put their left-hand signal, so because we're driving on the right side, they put their left-hand signal on as if like because they want to go in and they're probably going to go around the 3/4 way around, and I'm like, are they going to like actually turn left in this one, or are they going to follow it? And they most people do follow it, but I'm always terrified that someone's just going to start going the opposite way. I'm just like, don't, please.
Well, because they're just not prevalent over here, and it's not common. To pass a driver's test, you don't have to know how to go through a traffic circle. You could get your driver's license here and have no idea, have never come across a roundabout here in America. And so a large majority of people have no idea how to do it. And I think, I'm a big fan of the roundabout because it is way more efficient. Like it's much more efficient for traffic for people to just go when you need to and then pull off at the turn you want to go to, as opposed to just standing at a stoplight still while the other bit of traffic goes
Just
through.
as confusing, because it's like if you come out at the same time, are you gonna go? Am I gonna go? Is he
Yeah.
gonna go?
It's just a
Just as
matter
bad.
of what you know and what you expect. And a lot more people in America are just comfortable with a stoplight because they know what to do at a stoplight. And
Even though, again, there are a lot of rules with stop signs, not just
Yeah.
stoplight, because roundabouts would or sometimes take up stop signs, where it probably is better. So that's like they would take up stoplights as well, but stop signs would be a more specific thing.
Yeah,
where
there's good and
there
bad
is
things
a
about both, too.
lot of rules with stop signs because of the incident that who has the right of way
Yep.
in those instances. Like if you take it, most people know which one has the right of way, but do people follow those rules? Not really. And that's the worst part, is that some people don't either know them or will not follow them, even though there is rule sets to deal with who has right of ways.
Sir Fan says, I still find it hilarious that it is a normal sight in Texas to see someone's turn signal on, even if they're not turning. Is that true? I don't know about Texas. It's not very common here. Usually that is followed by me going, "Why does this guy have his turn signal on? What the? Do you see that? Do you see the guy's turn signal on? He's not turning." So it's not very prevalent here. I will say about Michigan, we have a weird thing even in the U.S. Here in my state, where you can't turn left on a specific types of roads. You like if it's a double road, if it's like 2 lanes going one way and 2 lanes going the other, you're not allowed to turn left on those roads. Uh, you have to take what we call a Michigan left, where you go up and instead of you want to go left on this road that has 2 lanes this way and 2 lanes that way, you have to take a right. uh, you have to turn on your right hand turn signal, pull into the farthest lane on the left, and then turn left and do like a little go onto what is a different separate light that lets you turn into the lane that was going the other direction. So you kind of have to take a
Yeah.
right and do a Yui.
I'm
That
already
is
confused.
essentially what you have to do
I'm already
in
confused.
order to take a left in Michigan.
Yeah, I'm confused too. To be fair,
Because they
I'm
don't
not
want
allowed
you
to
crossing
drive.
2 lanes of
I've been in the
traffic
car enough
and
with my
turning
sister and my
left.
Not
mother.
allowed to drive.
No, I'm not allowed to drive. Neither is Leo. Neither of us can drive, so
Fair enough. All
we're not
right.
allowed to by medical standards.
Fair enough. I'll move on to the last one, which is always the biggest, is measurement systems. The U.S. tends to use the old imperial system of yards, miles, pounds, Fahrenheit, etc. Whereas
That's just all of the world.
See,
whereas everywhere else basically uses meters,
Literally
grams,
everywhere.
liters, Celsius as a metric system.
Yeah, I mean, for us, we pick and choose depending on what it is. So, like, we use miles, but we use stone and pounds for weight.
Right. That's also,
Like,
I don't think the rest of the world uses stone and pounds. That is a uniquely
that's a
British
uniquely English thing. Yeah, like, well, like,
Right.
we don't really do, other than if you're, like, for medical stuff, we don't do height in centimeters. We do it in feet and inches. Like
That's
normal
so
people.
strange.
Like normal people. Like someone
Like
asked you to ask
normal
us how many
people.
centimeters we are. We're like, I don't know, like 5'5". How many
So you
centimeters is
guys
that?
are a strange combination of just like you're doing your own thing.
Yeah, we just
Well,
pick and choose whatever
yeah.
works best for the situation we're in. Like that's our culture.
Interesting.
That's what we do.
Yeah.
We take everything from everyone else and we use what makes the most sense.
So how much is a stone in pounds?
14 pounds is a stone.
14 pounds is 1 stone.
Yeah.
That's interesting. So that's very, because they talk about how you guys use the metric system, but you also have like your own kind of system that you're
We just
using
cobble it
too.
all
So
together. We're quite eclectic in that way. We take what works and we run with it.
yeah, yeah, that's I feel like the more universal measurements, like let's just can't we just all use the same measurements? I a lot of Americans are like, no, I like my pounds and inches. Well, that's because that's what you know. That's what you were taught. That's what you learned. You know how much a mile is because that's what you learned. But like,
I don't know how much
imagine
a
if
mile is.
everybody had the same units of measurement. Wouldn't that be so much easier for the world? Like,
It
if
would.
when you
That
said
would require some common sense.
if you said something weighed this much, anybody in the world could understand how much you were saying. Wouldn't that be just like so much easier?
Nope, apparently not. Anyways, yeah, that's kind of it for that one. I had another one that I pulled up. This one is an interesting topic. So the list on here, and this one definitely is a conversation kind of thing, is kind of about basically density population. Anywhere walking 20 plus minutes to your destination is very common in the UK, as well as public transit, whereas in the US it is very kind of rare. I would say it's difficult. There's a lot bigger car culture, which again would contribute to people not having licenses in the UK possibly, or not needing it depending where you are, because public transit is good enough that you can use it, whereas it very much lacks in American culture.
Yep. American culture is very car centric. Everybody has to have their own transportation. They have to have their own cars and stuff like that. Whereas anywhere else I've traveled in the world, public transportation is a huge deal. Because I'll ramble a bit here. I think it's because America is a lot newer of a country and we're a lot more spread out and we got more land. So we haven't really needed public transportation. There's not huge, there's cities every, so far, but it's kind of sparse and stuff like that. So everybody just kind of has their own cars and they do their own thing. And we invented pretty much the modern highway system was a big American thing, and the modern car, and we just kind of just adapted, and all of our planning is around everybody having their own car. Whereas in other countries, they were just kind of like, um, you know, they had already had road systems and everything set up, and public transportation was just a lot more feasible. Like, especially when I went to Japan, man, the public transportation in Japan is just nutso. You can get anywhere just by walking. You don't have to have a car for nothing. And in the UK, is that true? Like, a lot more people like walk and stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it kind of depends on where you are. So where we are enough in a town that we have like regular bus schedules. We have like, well, we have a train station, but
Age.
we're relatively rural. Like, if you want to go anywhere important down here, you kind of need a car, or you need to know someone with a car. But if you're in a city, like you just don't need it because buses go everywhere all the time. We have coaches that run everywhere. The trains go everywhere.
Oh, and the big British thing everybody knows about, the double-decker buses. That's like the thing when anybody thinks
Yeah.
Britain or London or whatever, they think the double-decker
I
buses, the big red double-decker
I
buses.
thought you were gonna talk about the underground. I thought you were gonna say the underground, honestly. So
No, the double-decker buses, like
no, it makes
literally-
sense. But I just I was just thinking about the underground, which is something again, which is very Londonish.
Yeah.
That's more specific to London rather than anything else. But yeah.
Yeah,
Like
but
the
I mean, if
subway
you're in
system?
any of the major cities, like unless you want to be traveling to somewhere and you want to be doing it under your own steam, like a lot of people do drive, but you don't need to. Like, you can get pretty much anywhere you want to go. I mean, unless it's a Sunday, and then you're fucked. because nothing's open on a Sunday.
Yeah.
That's the one thing. It doesn't matter where you are in the country. If it's a Sunday, it's either not open or it's Sunday hours, which is like 10 in the morning till 4 in the afternoon. That's it. You need anything outside of those hours on a Sunday, you are fucked.
Yeah, that's another big thing too, is the religious kind of Sundays, everything closes. I know. Isn't religion a lot more prevalent in schools there or something like that? I've
Oh, I
heard
had
that
to
before.
find the
Yeah,
thing I found this.
the junior school I went to, so trying to translate part of what would be elementary school for you guys, I spent 4 years at a Church of England school. Like a lot of our public schools are church schools. So I spent 4 years like doing nativities and Easter productions, and every morning we'd have freaking prayers and hymns
As
and
part of
stuff
your
at
public
assembly
schooling system,
as part
like
of our school system. Yeah, because it's a church run school. It was legit the Church of England junior school.
yeah.
So
There's go ahead, Bran.
no, go ahead. I'm gonna move it on.
I was just gonna say there's a huge, like, in America, separation of church and state is still a big thing, where they
Yeah,
try
here
and
it's
keep.
not a huge thing until you're 11 and you go to senior school, and then it kind of separates a load. But under that age, like up until you're 11, most of our like younger schooling is done by the churches because there's just no money for it otherwise.
So considering we're on the topic, I think we'll go into deeper analysis on it. It's probably the best time to do so. But we'll start talking about the schooling system in general. Obviously, part of it is the religious activities. I've even found an article on it just saying that basically it is part of the school system in the UK, whereas in America and even in Canada, it is not something like school-wide prayers and stuff like this. It's not something unless you go to at least here in Canada, you have to go to specific schools to do that. There's Christian schools that are separated from our public system that you have to attend, whereas it's kind of standardized through the UK. But I want to go through the grading system because this is always an interesting thing to talk about with people, because I've heard so many different stories about different places and their grade system, which what I'm talking about is when you move from depending on if you're in grade, what we call it 1, 2, 3, which is or elementary school, primary school, elementary school, middle school, and high school kind of stuff. So I want to go through that and talk about that. So considering that, I guess I'll start with it here, considering that I'm talking about it anyways. So at least in Canada, I'm pretty sure it's the same for the US. Waffles, correct me if I'm wrong, if there's anything different. But we have kindergarten first. So I don't know with the age groups, but you have junior kindergarten and senior kindergarten to start you out, which you do basically nothing in.
We have preschool here, which I had to go to preschool and stuff like that. So see, preschool is an elective. You can send your kid to preschool, or you can start out in kindergarten. You're not required to go to preschool, but preschool is a big thing here too. So it's like preschool, then kindergarten.
So if you
for the
do
most
preschool,
part.
what age do you start at?
Real young, like I'm talking real young. What is the starting age for preschool? I'm gonna look it up on Google. Age preschool, because I don't remember. I was 3 to 5 years old is for at least my state. When you start preschool. That's how early your parents want you out of the house.
That is early.
Get you out of there. I have very interesting. I do still have memories of preschool of me drawing lots of pictures and making macaroni art. But yeah, so preschool is a thing here before kindergarten. And then sorry, Bran, I just wanted to talk about
it's
preschool
okay.
really quick.
You're able to find. I'm looking for stuff as well. Yeah. So there is preschool, and then you have kindergarten, which you have your junior kindergarten and senior kindergarten. We have our grade 1, 2, 3, or there's two different things here. The one I went to, there's grades 1 to 8, which we call elementary school. Although some places will go 1 to 6 for elementary school and do 7, 8 as middle school, which is separate. And then you'll go to high school, which is grade 9s to 12. And then you can do a victory lap if you choose to, which is grade 13. But majority, or some places, I'm going to stick with
Victory lap?
You can do a victory lap, which is grade 13, which means you go back to your high school and do another schooling to get more education.
Definitely don't have that here.
To possibly, yeah, it's for colleges and stuff. So some people, I had a friend who did it. You basically take certain classes and you do what we call a victory lap, which they used to call grade 13, but we now call it a victory lap. Where you go back to your high school to get more high school credits, or if you're missing a high school credit for or like you figure out you want to do be certain thing and want to go to this university, instead of just applying with what you have, if you're missing something or you want more education, you do a victory lap to get that credit, high school credit, and then you apply to your university or college. There is, again, and this is something that's different in Canada versus the US, I know, is that we have universities and we have colleges. There is a huge difference to this, because if you're going to a college, it's a lower standard, where I think you would call, in the US you might have that as like your state something or whatever, or your local university. I don't know what you would call it in the US. But
community college.
That's probably what that is. It's basically a community college where you can go for less years. It's not as big of a achievement and diploma and stuff. And in college, is what we do is we normally focus more on hands-on. This is what I did. I went to a college. You do a lot more hands-on. But if you go to a university, that is it is like U.S. universities, but you guys intertwine your names between universities and colleges, which confuses the hell out of me. Where universities are the better thing to go to, but it's more thought-provoking and like logical. Yeah, whereas colleges are a lot different. But that's basically how we move. We go from kindergarten to elementary school, which you can quantify from grades 1 to 6. We have a technical middle school, depending on where you go, which is 7 to 8. Then you have your high school, which is 9 to 12.
Well, okay.
Is that kind of similar
to
what you have?
12 high school. Yeah, we don't have like advanced kindergarten or anything like that. There's just one kindergarten.
And I found this too. So if you want to know ages, this is basically what age range looks like in the school system. Preschools are age 3 to 4. Junior kindergarten is 4 to 5. Senior kindergarten is 5 to 6. Grade 1 is 6 to 7. Grade 2 is 7 to 8. Grade 3 is 8 to 9. Grade 4 is 9 to 10. That continues up. So once you're in grade 8, which is the end of elementary school, you're 13, 14. The start of your high school age would be 14, 15. And you would graduate at high school at the age of possibly 18. So that's how the Canadian U.S. system kind of works.
That's kind of pretty much, that's pretty similar.
Because
there's a few
I know it's completely
There's
different for ages you graduate high school at in the UK. So
Jairo said it's different for French Canadians. I don't know how it's different for French Canadians, but apparently it's a different system.
French Canadian. Yeah. So I'll quickly go with this. I'm not going to talk about Quebec because Quebec is the most confusing. Sorry, Jaios. But the rest of Canada hates fucking Quebec.
We won't talk about Quebec.
But we don't talk about Quebec because Quebec makes things insanely difficult. So fuck Quebec. That's what most people outside Quebec will say. That is fuck Quebec. Because it is the most confusing thing in the world.
No, we don't. No, fuck Quebec. No, Quebec is great.
No,
right?
no, screw Quebec. If they want to go, if they want to go separate themselves, they can go separate themselves. But every time they try to separate themselves, they fail, and that's during their own people, even though their own people want to separate. But that's getting political. But yeah, no, Quebec. Because if you ever see contracts or certain things in Canadian legislation, there is always a section that says if you're in Quebec, because Quebec has different laws from the rest of Canada. There is different specifications you have to have. So the French Canadian system can be different, especially for schooling, because the entire Quebec states in their rights basically that there are certain things that you have to do to apply to be
Wow.
in French Canadian law to basically to that is completely different from standard Canadian law.
I want to say I almost know more about Quebec than I do the rest of Canada, because Quebec is, when I go to the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, there's a lot of Quebecians there. There's a lot of people from Quebec there, and I've had a lot of conversations with people from that area, and I almost know more about that area than the rest of Canada.
But in law, everything is so much more confusing because of it, and it adds so much
Yeah.
more. Like
It's the Texas of Canada.
It basically is. Because they've wanted to separate in the past before, but I won't get into it. I just like the one thing I liked when it was brought up when I was learning about this stuff was the fact that I liked when Quebec decided that they want to separate, but they want to use our currency though, and I'm just like, why? You want to separate? Don't do that.
I have no idea.
No,
you know,
create your own goddamn currency to focus on. Like, why would you ever suggest that? But anyways, yeah, no. But most Canadians outside Quebec, fuck Quebec.
Well, let's talk about British school. Let's talk about UK
I went
and
on
how different that is, because I know that's definitely different from what it is here.
Yeah, so we don't really do the whole preschool thing. Like, there are places to, send your kids before the age of like 5 if you want to, but generally our schooling starts kind of around the time you're 5. It'll either be just before or just around. And you do 2 years at what we call nursery school. So that's your finger painting, your generic, little kid stuff. You do 2 years there.
Okay.
So yeah, 5,
So,
6,
wait, do you have a kindergarten, or is it just called
Nope, it's just
nursery
nursery.
school?
Yeah,
Okay.
it's just nursery. Although some of our schools kind of connect in two, so that our nurseries and our junior schools, which is the next kind of group, are all
Okay.
connected in one big thing. So we have some schools that go the whole 6 years. So you start like when you're 5 and you'll go all the way through until you're 11.
Okay.
So you
In
do
just one school, you're just
Yep, some places you just do it in one school now. So like when I was a kid, my local ones were separated. We had a nursery school, then we moved to the junior school, but they rebuilt it when I was older. Built it all into a new shiny building, so that you would go to one place. You start when you're 5. You do 2 years of your nursery stuff, then you start sort of proper school, which we class as year 1. So that
oh,
when you're 7 going into 8 years old. So you do year 1, year 2, year 3, and year 4 are like junior school kind of
okay.
age.
So yeah, here we have 3 years of middle school, which is our
Well,
we
Oh,
after
do
3 years.
no,
Okay, I didn't even hear this. I didn't know that.
yeah, we
yeah,
go to elementary school until grade 5, and then we have 3 years of middle school. That's our schooling.
yeah. Well, our schooling is
Yeah, next.
separated into what they call key stages. So key stage 1 is your first 2 years. And at the end of it, you take the key stage 1 exams. And depending on how well you do, depends on like how, what sort of classes you'll put in later on, or essentially they know if you're a smart kid or not.
Oh,
Then key stage 2 is 4 years. So that's year 1 to year 4. At the end of year 4, you take your key stage 2 exams.
key
Um,
stage.
yeah,
Oh,
so those are way more important. I know, right? Key stages, old times. So key stage
wow.
2 is way more important because you take your key stage 2 exams and they determine which essentially levels of aptitude classes you'll be in when you go into senior school, which is where we spend from 11 to 16.
What?
Yeah.
Wait, they determine where you're gonna go in your what is our equivalent of high school? based
Yep,
based
we take
on tests
exams
you
at
took when
11.
you were
Yeah.
developing at 11 years old?
Yeah. So for example, when I took my Key Stage 2 exams when I was 11, I took the
Whoa.
higher levels for both English and for maths. So I tested at what was the average for a 14-year-old when I was 11 in English and in maths, and one level down in science. So when I go into year 7, they look at your records and they say, okay, we put you in, we call them set classes. So the really smart kids get put in the highest set. You do the smartest stuff. You're the ones who do you go deeper into the sciences. You properly study things. You're not the idiots. Then there's the middle set who are pretty average. And then you have like the lower sets who are the kids who kind of need help. And they're all split up
Wow,
that
interesting.
early on. And then Key Stage 3 is years 7, 8, and 9. So from when you're 11 to when you're 14. And at the end of Key Stage 3, you take another set of exams. How well you do in those depends on which classes you get put in for your GCSEs.
What? My brain is
Yup.
melting just thinking about this. I
Yup.
can't even. I need a whole school class on how UK school works. Oh my
It's
god.
so complicated. And the thing is that it's changed since I was a kid. Like, the reason I still know so much about it is my mum is an exam officer. She works in a senior school. So she kind of keeps me up to date with everything. Yeah, so that's the other thing is up until you're 14, up until year 9, you have to take classes in everything. So you take English, you take maths, you take all the
Yeah.
sciences, you
Yeah,
do
that's pretty
Yeah,
drama,
everything
that's
is.
pretty much the same, yeah.
history, French. If you're good enough at French in my school, you took German as well. But once you get to your GCSEs, other than the main subjects, you can pick what other subjects you want to do. So everyone takes maths, everyone takes English, everyone takes science. Other than that, you pick and choose your electives for the 2 years you do your GCSEs. So I did drama, I did history, I did religious studies, and I did art because I had to. I was crap at it, but I did it. Yeah, secondary school. Yeah, that's what we called it too. Um, yeah, senior school, secondary
Senior
school.
school, secondary school. Oh, it's not the
Yeah,
same
same
everywhere.
difference. But that
Okay.
only goes up until you're 16. So when you're 16, you take your GCSEs. And
Okay.
depending on how well you do, essentially depends on what, for us, are colleges that you can get into. Now, college for us is a 2-year thing, sometimes 3, like how Bran was saying about like your victory
Victory
year
lap,
or
yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
We can choose to do a 3rd year at college if we wish to like buff our, academics and stuff before we apply to university. But that's where we do our A levels, which is what Astra was giggling about earlier. So A levels are essentially the equivalent, from what I can gather, of AP classes in America.
Oh, okay.
But the difference is that we only have to stay in school until we're 16. Once we're 16, we
Really?
can go to college, or we can go onto a vocational, like, apprenticeship, or
Oh,
in some cases straight into work, depending on
Huh.
your circumstances. I
Yeah,
went to
I mean,
college.
you get a bit of independence once you I mean, you can
Yeah.
opt out of high school here,
Oh, that's the other
once
thing I
you're
wanted
that
to mention
age.
that we don't do. You cannot, like, homeschooling, very rare here because it's a pain in the arse. You
Really?
you do not drop out of school here is the other thing. You are in school until you're 16. Like, that is it. Just you
There's
are
no
in
alternative. You
school.
are
There is
in
no
school. That
alternative.
is it.
And
Wow.
the other thing is, Americans do this thing where you hold people back and you skip grades. We don't do that here either. It is
Yeah,
not a
it's
thing.
not extremely common.
I've
Yeah,
never
here
It's
it
seen
not as
it here,
common
at
as it
least.
makes it look in like media and stuff like that. You
yeah,
have to be
like, not a
very
thing at
exceptional to
all
skip a
here.
grade here or anything like that. There's very few people who actually like skip grades or are really held back. You can be held back if you're like you know, if you just haven't done any of this, if you've skipped every class or something like that. But in general, they don't like doing it. It's not very
You have to be
common.
really low on the total.
Yeah, you have to be
Yeah.
really failing.
It's in the passing grade is low.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's very like we take a lot of exams throughout our years, and it's all kind of graded off the same scale while you're in the key stages, and then you get to GCSEs and it's like, hi, here's the real world. Hello.
Yeah.
And you've got 2 years to figure out what the hell you're doing to get into college. Then you've got 2 years at college to figure out what the hell you're doing to get into university, if you wish to do so.
Yeah, here it's kind of like you do high school until you're about 18. There's some 19 people in there. Um, and then it's kind of like good luck. There's like a few things to try and help you get into colleges or universities or something like that afterwards. But honestly, they kind of just drop you into the deep end and say, "Good luck. Here you go.
Whereas our
figure
entire
it out."
college system, like generally the only reason to go to college and do your A levels here, especially now, is if you want to go to university. And because of the way that system's set up, our colleges, especially when you're in your second year, your tutor or like whoever of the professors or whatever like you're closest to, they will go through all of your applications with you,
Yeah.
and they help you go through everything and you write everything, you set it all up together. But then we also have the plus side of having student finance.
Ina actually brings up a good what about student loans and college debts there? How prevalent is that in the UK?
So it does happen. Obviously, we have student finance. Once you are 18, if you have your A levels, if you want to go, depending on means tested for your family, everyone can get student loans. Unless your
Okay.
family is like super duper rich, everyone can get a loan for their first BA degree.
Okay.
As long as you don't have one,
And
you
this
can
this
get
is for
them.
university. This isn't the colleges
No, this is for
after
university.
high
Yeah.
school. Okay, yeah, this is
The big
university level.
difference is that our university fees are capped. Your
Oh,
guys's
okay.
are not. So
We're
we
no, we're
we
definitely
pay
not.
so our university fees, every module, everything, it's across the board in the country. Like, it
Yeah.
is how much were
Okay.
my modules this year? I think 3,300, I think my modules for my MA for this year were. And no matter what I was studying or where I was studying, it would be the same amount because
Yeah,
it is across the board universal.
it's crazy here in America. They you get done with high school at like 18 years old or whatever. You're a fresh adult. You have no idea what you're doing with your life. And everybody says, "Well, go to university, go to college." Well, my family can't really afford that. Well, get some student loans and you'll be
And
good.
then
You
you're
can get
drowning
through
in 100
college.
grand worth of debt.
And it's just insane the way that they can just prey on these fresh adults, 18 years old, finally able to make their own decisions in life. And the first thing you tell them to do is, "Hey, why don't you go get in debt?" That's
Well, the
the
other good thing
first
about
experience you have as an adult.
Mhm. The
Is,
other good thing
"Hey,
about
here's some
ours
debt
is that
for you."
we have so many rules set up in place, so we only start paying our student loans back once we are making over so much a year.
Yeah.
So once you're making over, I think the threshold's something like 25 grand a year. Once you're making over that, you have to start paying back towards your student loans. But if it goes so long and you don't ever get that money back, essentially they write it off. It just
Wow.
kind of gets lost in the
Boy,
jumble
wish we
of
had that here.
education.
That's another big privatized industry in the US is the advanced education. It's nutso. The fact that you can be a fresh human adult and just suddenly be hundreds, tens of thousands of dollars in debt at the
Mhm.
beginning of your adult life is just so
Yeah.
ridiculous to me.
So
I do not understand that part. That's a big part. I'm kind of jealous of in Europe and the UK and stuff like
So
that.
I've been trying to look it up, but I can't find it. There is something here in Canada where we give student loans. We obviously do student loans. Anyone can do a student loan. Although there is we get, I don't know if there's loans or they call them grants anymore. But basically the government has set it up a national entity to basically go, if you're under a certain amount of family income, you get granted a certain sum of money, or you can apply to get a certain sum of money to pay for your education. And I can't remember there's I think there's one that is, if you're under a certain income, it's they do call it a grant, which means you don't have to pay it back. Although I do think there's
there's scholarships here and
no,
stuff
but
like
it's
that.
but like it's a scholarship, but issued by the government. Under anyone under a certain amount of family income can take that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
And it's
we have different forms of stuff like that as well. We have grants for people who are either in certain situations or in low income states. We also have bursaries, which is mostly for like understaffed occupations like nursing and teachers, where
Did
they
you say
will essentially,
birthsaries?
it's called a bursary. Yes.
Birthsary.
No,
bursary.
a
Okay.
bursary.
Bursary.
Yeah,
Okay, got it. I've never
bursary.
heard that word in my whole life.
Yeah,
we have that
essentially,
here.
it's where the government
Bursary.
say,
Bursary.
we don't have
Okay.
enough people in this job, so we will pay you to train and go and get this job.
Oh, okay.
So mostly we have it in like nursing and recently in teaching as well, because there's been like a giant teaching crisis. But yeah, pretty much anything. Like as long as you haven't studied and it's like your first degree or whatever, and like your family aren't rolling in it, then studying over here is like so much less of a headache. So much less of a headache.
Yeah. It brings up another good point. When you're done in high school, 9 times out of 10, uh, they will try and recruit you to the military, to pay for like your college and stuff like that. They will 100% try and recruit you to the US military.
Yeah, that's
Um,
nowhere near as big a thing here. Like,
yeah,
other
that's
than we
huge
have
here.
the TV adverts made in the Royal Navy. Anyone who's
Yeah.
listening who is British and has watched British TV will know exactly what I'm talking about. We have these adverts where it's like, I was born in Blythe, but I was made in the Royal Navy. And they're like, what were you born to do? And we're like, yeah. I think, but I know those Royal Navy ads are mad. I think in the one time there was one time I think in the entirety of my years at school where we had the army come in and do a when you're 16, if you'd like to join the army, here's what we do kind of assembly presentation, but that was it. Like that was totally it. There is
Yeah.
like nowhere near as much
Yeah.
of that here
So
because
when I
we're all
was
just
just
like, nah,
coming
fuck that shit.
Yeah, I was just coming out of high school, and I was I was on Prozac and stuff like that, and I remember my recruitment officer was like, boy, he wanted me to join. He was just like, hey, you ready for the Navy? Yeah, you should definitely join the Navy. You should join the Navy. Are you on any kind of medication or anything like that? I'm like, yeah, maybe the military would be the right way for me to go. Yeah, I'm on Prozac, and he's like, I've got other things to do. Bye. Bye. Talk to you later. Oh, that's unfortunate. Bye. And then I never heard from any recruitment officer ever again in my life. That was how fast they were just like, nope.
So I did find. I'm gonna off track back to what I was saying before, but then I'll go back to that. I did find the program. So each province, because we have 13 provinces, has a different program. I think mine was called OSAP because I'm in Ontario, but they do issue you grants under certain circumstance or most circumstances, depending on your family income. In your status, but we call it OSAP, which is Ontario Student finance.
That's cool.
Ontario
I
Student
like that
Assistant
idea.
Program. That's what it is, and it helps you pay for colleges and universities for your tuition. It offers you grants under most circumstances. I was not eligible, but
I love that. I like
but
that
yeah,
idea.
that's
Education is just so important. I think
like
that
it,
it should
it didn't
be.
like didn't offer you like an insane amount that it's like, oh yeah, we're gonna pay for your entire tuition and everything, but it offered you enough to give you some relief on it. Whereas otherwise you'd have to go get a whole loan from a bank or something like that, which is the other thing we do is get student loans for banks. But I definitely don't think it's as hard to pay because there is some relief as the U.S., where the U.S. you talk about your entire debt system and how every student coming out of anywhere basically is in debt.
You're a fresh human adult. Here's some debt for you. Enjoy. Go on. Move on to university. Here you go. It's nutso. It's definitely I think a problem. There's nowhere in the U.S. where they don't talk about student debt and how ridiculous it is.
Or your debt
It's
in general.
or just straight up debt in
Just straight
general.
up
But
debt.
like they get you used to the idea early on in your adult life.
You will
They're
have
just
debt.
like, here you go,
You want
get
that.
ready. You want to become a successful human being? Either join the military or you're in debt to your whatever college you decide to go to. Other than that, good luck with your life, and
And
you're just a
I think the
bum.
worst part is how regulated your student loan system is, because there are all these corporations
Oh,
set
it's
up
crazy.
for specifically student loans, whereas I'm pretty sure
Yeah.
most of Canada is regulated through banks, and there is regulations between
Nope,
them. But
there's
it's just
a
like the U.S.
bajillion
go like,
businesses who are like,
yeah,
give us a piece of that pie. Yeah, let's go. I want some of that student loan money.
but yeah, I don't think
Yeah.
there are a lot of ads for military here, but I don't, the recruitment, at least I haven't seen that being that like high and being like trying to.
Yeah, what are the I was gonna say, what are the ads for a Canadian military? Like,
It's
join the Mounties today.
Well, no, the RCM. So there is the there is local police forces, there is province police forces. So you have your local ones, you have your provincial ones, which we in Ontario we call them the OPP, the Ontario Provincial Police. Each province has their own, and everyone has their own jurisdiction. The OPP will cover basically most highways, as well as anywhere that isn't guided by or isn't guarded by local municipal areas.
Okay.
And then you have then we have the RCMP. Our RCMP is basically the highest kind of in the standard police system. They're not actually police. They're kind of, it kind of depends. It's basically a half military, half police force. So you have to have really high qualifications to be part of the RCMP. So basically, you have to pretty much go through police training to be part of the RCMP. And then you have the actual army, the Canadian Army, which is a completely different entity in itself.
Yeah.
The RCMP is kind of like, I would say, the Grenadiers in sort of way in the British culture, where it's just like there's a lot of ceremonial duties that they have to attend, but
The Grenadiers? I'm sorry. What's the Grenadiers?
Or the Britain's army, basically. Like there's certain divisions, like they're like in British culture, and then part of them is like the Grenadiers, where they guard like the royal family. So if you know how there's the changing of guard ceremony, where they change the guards in front of the royal palace.
Right. Yeah.
No? Okay. Good to know.
How do you become a royal guard in the UK? That's what I want to know. How do you become a royal palace guard? That's all I want to know.
With a lot of training
and a lot of tolerance for
I'm
people's
pretty
shenanigans.
sure, I could be wrong. I think that they're an offshoot of Scotland Yard nowadays.
Really?
Technically, I don't know which way through it goes, but yes, Grenadiers is old school. Essentially, the explosion guards. Like, it's quite
people who
literally
like the
what
big
it
boom.
says on the tin. They're named after grenades.
Heck
But
yeah, that's what I
they were
want to be
adapted
in the
time to be the
military.
royal
I want to be the
guards.
dude who throws grenades. Me like
But
big
you have
boom
to have so much discipline to be
to
one
not
of
blow your own team up.
one of those guards, because you are not allowed to react
Oh, to the
to
royal guard, yeah.
anything.
Yeah, unless somebody touches you. I know that's another big. I guess we can talk about that. The big thing that everybody does in London is go up and bother the palace guards,
Trying to make them laugh.
and
Yeah.
Poor
yeah,
guys.
yeah, I know. And so every one of those videos I see, I love watching the videos where they do one step too far and they actually like touch them, and the palace guard can just like
Oh yeah.
essentially just like
Yeah. Like, you
it's
do
some of
realize
those
I'm trained
videos
in
are
5 martial arts, right?
amazing. But
Look,
like, I mean,
the
come on,
people
this is just
standing
a
in the
dude
way.
trying to do his job. Leave him the hell alone, man. This guy's just standing guard, sitting there. Why you gotta bug him?
People
He's
that
just doing
the
his
people
own
that stand
thing.
while they're marching to one of the different areas, and then they just try to pick a picture in front of it, and the guy just shoves the person out of the way.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, they literally take the butt of their gun and they're like, nope.
No, they literally will like push you if they
Yeah.
like, because they're doing their march to they're changing, and then they'll literally yell like, move out of the way, and then if you don't move out of the way, they will shove you. They will not stop it at all. But yeah, essentially the RCMP, or the Royal Mounted Police, are a division that is highly trained, but is also part of their job is ceremonial duty. So that's when you'll see them bearing their red coats and everything. That they're most known for is that if they're doing ceremonial duties. Otherwise, they are in full duty and they have different aspects. Although it's probably more prevalent out west. If the RCMP runs out there, that's like Alberta and stuff, they might run more frequently out in that area because they might not be as guarded by provincial police. I don't know. I'm not 100%
like
sure.
a lot more rural places, they just have kind of
I think so. It depends. I don't really know. I'll look it up what the RCMP covers, but I know that they cover a lot of different things, but it also depends on the province that they'll cover.
Yeah, that's a big difference between I could talk for a long time about the American military and all of our stuff. We like, boy, that's a big difference between literally America and everywhere else. Is just how much stuff is military run, and the different. We've got military systems on top of military systems running pretty much every little tiny aspect. We've got uh you've got the police, you've got the state police, you've got the Coast Guard, you've got Homeland Security, you've got all sorts of different kinds of different levels of military here in America, which is I would guess a little bit different than a lot of other places in the world. For sure.
Yeah, because I mean we've got the army, we've got the navy, we've got the lifeguard. Really, I will give them props. The lifeguard get their own thing in there. Those guys are nuts. But
Yeah.
then we've also got like our super secret, you know, Royal
MI6.
Marines. Well, yeah, you've got MI5, you've got MI6, you've got James Bond. You've got we've got the Royal Marines. So the Royal Marines are who train the American Navy SEALs.
Yeah, okay.
Because we actually have a Marine base nearby.
You guys got a
I
lot more
grew up
water
with a
there,
bunch of
so
Marines. So, and yeah, we have our Air Force and stuff, but
yeah.
it's just not as big a thing here. But I suppose the other difference is that the police here are just the police. Like, we don't have, even if county by county, yeah, it's local, but we don't have provinces or jurisdictions or anything like that. It's just
Yeah.
it be the cops.
So
It'd be the cops.
I found more exactly.
They got
what it
their
is.
billy sticks.
So
their whistles.
Don't forget Johnny English. Too damn right.
Johnny English.
Johnny English
Another
loves
Rowan
forever
Atkinson
save the day.
classic.
More Rowan Atkinson.
I love that guy.
So I found more about the RCMP that I was looking for. So basically, the RCMP is our federal police force. So they'll cover basically pretty much anything. Mostly all of it is pretty much any federal crimes kind of thing. So they will deal with the highest kind of criminal investigations and everything. They are responsible, or they are the police force in most provinces, including, unsurprisingly, Ontario and Quebec, because Ontario has its own
the super cops.
Well, because we have the OPP, which covers the entire Ontario, which would have fall under the RCMP, but because of that, and then surprisingly, Quebec has its own thing because Quebec has its own thing.
Of course, right.
But yeah, so they basically are the federal police force.
The French Quebecian police, where they chase you with baguettes.
A smile from Giles.
Giles just
with a soundboard
Giles,
when
a
you
resident
need
French Canadian, just posts smiley face.
But yeah, the RCMP basically covers most of the provinces as their police force. Although I'm pretty sure as long as it's not too small, most major cities have their own police force within it. But
is there because we're running out of time, is there any other big areas we want to cover about differences or anything like that before we because we're getting on like 2 hours here? So
Waffles is dying.
Anything else on your list?
Well, there's tons of things that I could go through, and one of them is classism. Apparently, classism is more deeply rooted in the UK than the US, which isn't as surprising. But there is a lot more classism apparently, which is like
classism.
Yeah, basically, like you
okay,
certain standard. Like.
Yeah, it's because we still have like the remnants of like the monarchy and dukes, like duchies and lords and ladies. Like it's not as bad now as it was like in the 90s, say. Like it's becoming less and less of a thing. But it's definitely more of a thing here than it is in America. Like you have your posh people in the nice part of town.
I mean, you have that here in America too. It's
you have those
suburbs,
the scrubs and the chavs who live on the wrong sides of the tracks, and
I feel like that's a big thing in a lot of places. You know, like there's definitely, like, I will say, we try to sweep it under the rug, but there's definitely classes.
Well, in the article it says it's anywhere you go there's classism, but it's just more deeply rooted and they express it more.
Okay.
Whereas the U.S. kind of goes like, yeah, you kind of have your upper class, middle class, lower class, but like in the U.K. it's very prevalent of where it stands.
It's very, you don't associate with the commoners.
Yeah, like especially if you're in London or somewhere like that, there are still people who are very. Do you not know who my family is?
Okay. Like, so they can use the word plebeian
and it
doesn't sound ironic.
You know who my father is. You know,
out of the way, you plebeian.
Yeah, it's starting to be less of a thing now, but it's because we're such an old country and we spent so long with duchies, with lords and ladies, with it being such a thing.
Monarchy is still very prevalent and stuff like that.
Yeah, exactly.
Feudalism's still running strong.
This one I laughed at, but is kind of makes sense. Weather is far more predictable in the US than the UK, apparently.
I mean, the weather here is pretty predictable. It's gonna rain.
It's gonna rain. Yeah, that's
really all you need to say. Like, it's gonna rain. It's gonna be overcast. Like, that's all you need to know.
This article definitely was written by someone who's just spent time and just want to put things on. But apparently, off-leash dogs and outdoor cats are normal in the UK, but not in the US.
That's a lot of places other than the US. I think it's pretty common for a lot of pets and animals in places outside of the US to just not have leashes and stuff like that. In the US, it's like, if you have your animal off a leash, that animal's gone. It's there's none of that in the US for sure.
And the last one I found on here, which was again very interesting. Brits grocery shop more frequently than Americans. Don't know how true that is, but
how often do you guys do your grocery shopping?
Maybe once every other week or something like that.
Once a week,
maybe once every other week or something.
Kind of
something around that area.
Yeah, once a week. Like, but food doesn't perish like longer just because you're in a different country, does it? Right? Like
that's no. Well, we do lace our stuff up with a lot of preservatives, so our
according to the article,
also have like Costco and all those warehousey things.
Yeah,
really
Costco.
Have too much of.
Yeah, sometimes once or twice a month. Like I said, like once every other week, I think.
According to the article, again, I don't know exactly what their basis was on. But Brits generally do grocery shopping multiple times a week versus once a week or less, like Americans do. That's apparently, again, I don't know what it's based off of, but that's a.
I've never known anyone who does grocery shopping or food
Maybe
shopping,
like
I suppose, as we call it, more than once a week. Like,
if you live next to a farmer's market or whatever, maybe
I mean,
like
Sainsbury's is down the road. We have our food freaking delivered, and we don't do it that often.
yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know about that. I would assume everybody needs the same food requirements no matter where you live. Um, I guess I do appreciate if I had more time, I'd be doing grocery shopping more often and just get fresher foods more often. But it's a trip to the grocery store, and I really don't want to make a trip to the grocery store, so I get a bunch of frozen foods and I get some fresh veggies and hope they last me a week or two. That's pretty much it.
The last one I'll talk about because I did mention it a lot earlier, but we didn't actually get into it. The pub culture. Someone on one of the articles was like, pub culture is real. Do we want to go into what pub culture is, Aria?
Essentially, it's going to your local and getting wasted generally. Like, so it depends where you are. If you're in a city, you're going to have a shitload of pubs. Like, your local is generally going to be the one that is within walking distance so that when you're pissed off your face, you can just about make it home. If you're in a small, I mean, let me put it this way. I lived in a small town, maybe 500 to 1,000 people tops when I was growing up, and we had 12 pubs. 12.
Woo!
We had
Dang.
one small bookshop, we had 2 pharmacies, we had a little supermarket and like a corner shop, and we had 12 pubs.
You needed the 12 pubs. Nothing
And
is
that
more
should tell you
satisfying than the
everything you
12.
need to know. So, but the thing is that it's not a drinking thing here. Like, not only do pubs have some of like the best food in the country generally, like pub food is just great, but it's one of those like meeting place things. So, if you were a normal person, unlike me, you go of the evening, you might have a wander down to your local publican, and there might be a game of football on. And you
Right.
kind of just sit and chill, and, that's generally where sort of older teenagers and sort of young 20-ish people tend to hang around over here, like, especially if you're somewhere rural, because nightclubs are just, like, not a thing. Like, it's the pub. You go to the pub.
Right. You go to
Like,
the pub, you go to
yeah,
the
you go to the pub and you chill, but the big difference here is, and what I forgot to mention earlier, is the whole drinking age thing.
Right.
Oh yeah.
So, like, America, you guys have a ridiculously strict drinking
Yeah, I
age,
know, right?
and you have so many
21.
problems with underage drinking, and
Oh yeah.
sex and pregnancy, teenage pregnancy is exactly the same thing.
Well, that's a whole different bag
We
of worms. Yeah,
Oh,
that's
we are so much more lax here. So not only is our drinking age 18, not 21, it's 18. But if you are in a pub, say, and you're a kid, if you're with your family and you're eating a meal, as long as the adult orders it for you, you can have an alcoholic drink with your meal at the age of 14.
dang, really? Wow.
Yeah,
Yeah, no
as long
way
as
in
the adult is
hell
ordering
over
it,
here.
supervised, you are
Woo.
allowed to drink with food in an establishment with as long as you have guardians with you and they're buying it at 14 in some places, some places at 16. When I was a kid, it used to be 12.
Yeah.
But it's also not a big deal for kids over here to like drink with their families at Christmas. Like,
Well, I think I kind of if you're drinking with your family and you're in a supervised setting, that's I feel like that should be much more people should be more lenient on it because um what ends up happening where you're not allowed to touch a drop of alcohol till you're 21
But you can
is that
touch a
you
gun.
turn 21,
You go
you
mad.
go to a bar for your birthday, you get
Mhm.
blackout freaking drunk.
Yup.
And
Whereas we
they
don't
have
have
no
that
idea
issue.
how to deal with alcohol because they've never had it before. They don't know
Yeah,
what the
whereas
fuck
we
to
don't
do.
have that issue because kids here turn 18 and they might go to a bar and be like, "Hey, yo, I'm 18, I'd like a drink." But it's not a novel thing. Like most kids have
Yeah,
had a drink before, even if it's just like Alka-Pops or whatever.
yeah,
Like it's
it's something you've
not a
slowly
huge
gotten used
taboo.
to as
So it's
opposed to just like, here
mhm.
you go. There's a big thing about like that's just kind of a cultural thing in the US. It's where you turn 18 and suddenly just the chains are off. You are your own
Yeah, you have
person.
no help.
Good
You just get
freaking
pushed out into
luck.
the cold and told, "You are an adult. We have not prepared you. Good luck."
Yeah, you don't know how
Whereas
to do your
we
tax. There's no
spend
tax class
yeah.
Yeah.
in our
We do that.
schools.
We do that. I took a class when I was in year 11, so my last year of official school when I was 15 turning 16, I took a class called Preparation for Working Life,
Yeah, there
and
ain't
they showed you
nothing nothing like that
tax
here.
forms, housing issues, stuff to do with the council, like what a P45 looks like, anything and everything you could possibly need to know to be an adult, we are taught in
Yeah.
school at
So
15, 16, and then
so
we go
I
over it again in college.
so there's not so
And
we don't have a classic that although we should. Drinking age in it depends where you are. I should be specify this. In where I am, it's 19. Quebec is 18. So the funny thing is, a lot of people from Ontario, if they're close enough, will go to Quebec to drink
Go
18,
drinking.
to go at 18, which is fair enough. It's 1 year of a difference, and it's just legal on the other side. Which I've also heard a lot of Americans will come up from, if they're close by, will come up from the border to Canada when they're 18, 19 to drink here because of being the exact same case. But yeah, there's a little bit more preparation for life in Canada, but not necessarily everything is necessarily done well. And again, one of those things is taxes and everything. Is there? Everyone
Yeah.
thinks there should be a class, but there hasn't been, and it's kind of ridiculous.
Ina brings up a good point too. Yeah, there are classes, but they teach you what taxes were, and they don't keep up with. They don't actually keep up with tax reforms and stuff like that. Where the taxes are just changing all the time. The classes they don't change. And there are a few places that do. There are like depending on your school, there are places that will teach you how to do taxes and things like that, but it's never up to date, and you're lucky if you even get one of those schools. It's not a requirement of the curriculum. You're expected to learn to do algebra and calculus, but not know how to do your own taxes.
you gotta know how to make an algebra, but
Right. Which is just, I mean, yeah, having to do your own taxes is a whole crazy thing in itself. My dad actually lives in New Zealand, and what they do for taxes there is they just give you a bill. They just go, "Hey, here's the taxes you owe us.
Which is a
Mhm,
lot
our
better. Which
schools
is
Pay
have
this."
which is the ridiculous thing in both the U.S. and Canada is that they don't do that, and because the government gets paid off by all these tax filing companies.
Yeah.
To not do that, to basically you have to file your taxes, and if you get it wrong, because we know what it is, so we could easily give you the number, but we won't, and you'll have to file it, and if you get it wrong, we'll come at you, but we could give it to you, but we won't because these other companies are paying us off. That's basically how it goes. It's
Yeah.
is,
We know how much you owe us. We're gonna make you
but we're gonna
guess.
make you, yeah. It's
If
like
you get it wrong, though, you're gonna be in trouble. It's so silly to me.
we could
I-
tell you, but we
Yeah.
won't.
Sex education. Oh yeah. Sex education is another thing too. You
Yeah,
turn
I was just about to say we do it. So we do sex ed once at puberty. So when you're like 10, 11, you get you split up the boys and the girls get this is what periods are, and your life is gonna suck from the second they start. Good luck
Yeah.
being a woman. And the boys get the whole, this is why your pee pee gets wet sometimes when you wake up. And
I
they
mean, it's pretty
separate
much
it
the
all
same
out.
here. I took mine in middle school, which
Yeah, well,
was
see, we
about
then do
that
it
age.
again when we're, like, 14, where you get
Yeah.
"Okay, this is proper sex ed. This is where you do the safe sex talk, the you have the
Hmm.
right to say no talk, the contraception, stuff about the
Yeah.
pill, and
They mixed
everything
that all
else."
into one class called health education for
Yeah,
me
the
when I
great
was
thing
in
is,
high
though,
school.
is that when you then go to college, when you're like 16, 17, 18, is you are then the people who go and talk to the 14-year-olds and give them the
Oh.
sex ed classes.
I don't know if I
That's
could have
how we
taught
do it
sex ed
over
when I
here.
was 18 years old. I still
Like,
was very
yeah, like we have like
there ain't no
our
way.
slightly older teenage because our legal age is 16. So
Oh,
we
okay.
have our 17, 18-year-old college kids come in to speak to, like, the younger teenagers and do it from that side as well, because then you also have the whole, "Oh, they're not stuck with, adulty science teachers or whatever," but the only one we split by gender is the youngest one. After that, you
Yeah.
do everything mixed.
Yeah, in high school we didn't split either. We just took all the stuff together. We learned female anatomy, male anatomy, all the stuff. And oh yeah, there was every kid in class. It's funny. It was just, guys,
I will say
it's
one
the
of my
juicy
favorite
balls.
memories was we had the college students come in when I was, like, 13, 14 to do the whole, you can say no lesson, right? And they were like, "Oh, we need a volunteer. We're gonna do a little bit of like role play. Like we need a
Oh
volunteer."
no.
And they looked at me and they went, you're gonna do it." I went, "I'm exercising my right to say no." And they all went, "Well, there's nothing we can do about that, is there?" I'm like, "No, no, there isn't.
You're like, nope.
No, nope, not gonna
Uh-uh.
happen."
That's pretty funny.
Entertained since I was raised in West Virginia, any sort of education and information growing up. It's like 30 years out of date. Yeah, I guess a lot of I make general sweeping statements about education here in the US, but it is very different depending on where you live. The states are expected, each of them have their own different regulations for education and stuff. So it actually
Which is
really varies depending on state to
surprising.
state. Right, yeah. You would think they would be a lot more federally regulated, but nope. It's all whatever the state thinks you should learn is what you learn. So, um, you're
Yeah,
gonna get a
we
very
whereas we
different
have
education in Texas than I don't know, like California.
Well,
So,
Yeah, whereas ours is totally regulated and uniform. Like, if you go to a private school, then things are gonna be slightly different. Like, if you're gonna pay to go to a private school, then, like, you get access to, like, different classes and stuff. Like, one of my friends went to the fancy private school where I live, and she took Latin. Shit that we couldn't do. But that's about it really. Other than that, everything is uniform. No matter where in the
yeah,
country you are, no matter how shitty of a school it is. I mean, you might get crappier teachers, but the material is all gonna be the same.
right. Is that the same between Britain and England too, and
Mhm. Yeah,
Scotland?
'cause, I the Irish might have some of their own regulations, but other than that, the rest of it, it's all done by everything is regulated per exam board. So there are a bunch of different exam boards and schools go, this is the curriculum we're
Right.
doing. We're doing this one. And then it's the same countrywide for
Okay.
everyone who is on that curriculum.
Oh, okay. Yeah, yeah. We're just 50 different individual states trying to decide what the kids in this state need to learn this. The kids in this state need to learn that. It's like okay.
Yeah,
Y-
well, it's like you guys
50
have
different
like
forms of
world history
legislation for
and
schooling
American
in the same
history.
country.
Like, we don't do that. We just learn history. Our history is
Oh, yeah.
history. Like,
That's another big thing
it
too
spans
is
the entire freaking world. Like,
yeah. We learn American history. That's all I knew about for most of my young adult life was Abraham Lincoln and the Revolutionary War and everything American history. And that was we learned a little bit about like ancient Roman history and stuff, a little bit about that kind of stuff, but nothing about like more recent like it pretty much the textbooks were a timeline of like this is how this is you had ancient Rome and then some European stuff happened and then America was colonized and then just everything from there and then it's like
Just American.
Dear Lord.
yeah.
Anyways,
That explains a lot.
yeah, no kidding. Anyways, we'll wrap it up there probably.
We're pushing on 2.5 hours here, so
kind of. We started late as well, and we didn't start for another couple minutes in between. But regardless, we'll probably end it here. Thank you, Aria, for joining us. Do you want to plug yourself a bit?
Yes, thank you for having me. Yeah, you can find me on the Twitch at Aria Oakbell. You can find me on the Twitter at the same, but with little X's either side, because I did make the account years and years ago, and then I forgot the password, and I can't get into it anymore, so I have two. That is the reason why my Twitter has X's at the beginning and the end, because I can't remember how to get into the other one. It was a very long time ago.
Relatable.
I also have the Yub Chubs, Aria Oakbell. There's not much on there now, but I'm planning on doing song covers soon. Now I have my pretty background here. Yeah. Thank you guys for having me. It's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, thank you so much, Aria.
You also find Aria hanging around here on Waffles' Twitch a lot, helping moderate.
Oh, yes.
And
pretty much running my channel.
And basically running his channel. So if you are watching or listening to us on any of our other platforms, check Waffles out on twitch.tv/waffles for chumps. That's twitch.tv waffles and the number 4 chumps, all one word on Twitch.
If you want to watch me, or for the real reason you want to talk to Aria.
Yeah, if you want to talk to anyone else that isn't Waffles, you can find them there. If you are listening to us right now and joined us recently for the podcast, then I suggest either checking out some of our previous ones on the YouTubes, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or Amazon Music under the name WaffleBran Podcast. I fixed that.
Yeah,
during
check us
stream,
out.
I don't know if anyone's noticed that.
Go watch more stuff.
I fixed that. Go find us there. Give us a follow on one of those platforms, and you can either find any of our other podcasts that we've done previously for the past few weeks, or
we talked about anime last time.
We've talked about anime last time. We've had a couple of special guests with Sugar
social media.
Getting Waffles on social media. We have a lot more planned and coming up. So follow us there, or follow us here on twitch.tv for anything live. And we will catch you all hopefully in the future. Take care, everyone. Bye bye.
Thanks for joining, guys. Bye bye, everybody.